Every sport has a dark side. The UFC just has more of it than most. Arrests, doping, cover-ups, broken careers. For the next 3 hours, forget the highlight reels and see what's really been going on for 3 decades.
In the world of MMA, we can find many commendable characters who represent the sport in a positive light. But as with all good things, there are some bad ones. We bring you a few interesting personalities with even more interesting background stories on how they got their mugshots. The most common criminal problem that MMA fighters get into is speeding charges. In most cases, they are related to alcohol issues. In 2010, former longtime UFC fighter Chris Lieben drove without a driver's license and insurance, and because he was intoxicated, he crashed into a wall. However, this is not his first case, because in 2008, he was already accused of DUI. After an arrest warrant was issued, Lieben turned himself in and was sentenced to 35 days in jail for a parole violation. But later, we will show that this is not the worst thing he did. The same applies to Nick Diaz, who was also arrested twice in 2013 and 2014. Stockton's son faced 8 total charges, including DUI, DUI with an alcohol or drug level above 0.08, unsafe speed for prevailing conditions, failure to appear after written promise, driving with a suspended license, and resisting arrest. He was lucky to only get 2 days of jail time. Former WEC champion and UFC competitor Hermes Franca is another reckless driver who was charged with a traffic offense, DUI, and alcohol or drugs first offense in 2008. It seems that 2008 was the year of crazy drivers because Luke Kumo, whose UFC career was short and unsuccessful, was also arrested, but he can boast that in 6 wins and 6 losses, he was never knocked out. Except, of course, when he was knocked out due to excessive use of marijuana and too many chicken wings. He was in such a state that the police thought he was drunk from alcohol. WWE star and former UFC champion Brock Lesnar has a funny story with his arrest in 2001. He was arrested on suspicion of possessing a large amount of illegal substances, which were thought to be illegal steroids. Well, it turns out it was nothing illegal when the results came from the lab, but as his lawyer says, vitamin type of thing. This is so Brock Lesnar, right? Moving on to Kevin Ferguson, better known as Kimbo Slice. Who would have thought that Slice would be arrested for something different after all the illegal street fights? His appearance would suggest that he is a troubled man who has spent much of his life in prison, but Kimbo proves that looks can be deceiving. Even more, his acquaintances described him as honorable and kind. He was only arrested once in his life, and that happened in 2002 when the police found him in Miami with a weapon and an alcoholic beverage in a public place. Now you are probably wondering, if he is what they described him as, what does he need a weapon for? Well, before he started fighting, the notorious street fighter worked as a driver and bodyguard for Reality Kings, a company that produces adult films. Therefore, as their bodyguard, he should have been armed. When he was arrested, in addition to getting a mugshot, he was charged with carrying a concealed weapon and an open container. He entered a no-contest plea for drinking charges and was ordered to attend an alcohol education course. The weapons charge was dropped. What is interesting about this case is that his connection with this industry has led to beneficial development in his career. Kevin posted his fights on an adult site and gained millions of views. Even more, he remained close with the Reality Kings crew, who later came to his UFC and Bellator fights under the Kimbo Team banner. Moving on to Tito Ortiz, a former UFC champion and Bellator competitor who also had connections to the adult film industry. That connection was his girlfriend. The Huntington Beach bad boy was arrested in 2010 after police received a domestic violence call in the morning. The victim was Jenna Jameson, Tito's girlfriend and the mother of his kids. Her side of the story is that she said something hurtful to his ego, and Ortiz allegedly picked her up and threw her in the bathtub, causing her to tear ligaments in her shoulders. But it was recorded that she changed the story several times. Although his lawyer denied domestic violence, Tito gave his side of the story, where he said that Jenna actually had an emotional meltdown after Tito found the pills in her pockets. Of course, Jenna denied everything, and the accusations against the UFC Hall of Famer were eventually dropped. Cain Velasquez was charged with attempted murder, but looking at his story in detail shows it was a heroic act. In 2022, he was arrested for trying to shoot a man who molested his 4-year-old son at daycare. Harry Goularte, a man whose family owned that daycare, was charged for it but only received a supervised release. Imagine the courage to abuse the child of a former UFC champion. 3 days later, Cain was armed and went out to search for justice by himself. However, after a high-speed car chase, he accidentally shot Harry's father and wounded him with non-life-threatening injuries. Cain was accused of ramming the vehicle, using a weapon, and shooting the wrong man. After his arrest, Velasquez appeared in court several times where he was charged with several indictments and was denied bail because, watch out now, the judge determined the risk is too great to release him in public, fearing he would cause more trouble. None of this would have happened if the molester had been put behind bars first. This defendant decided to become judge, jury, and executioner. His actions endangered innocent bystanders, including young children and their parents who could have been injured or killed as he shot at his intended victim. District Attorney Jeff Rosen said in a statement, "We have excellent law enforcement in this county. Let them do their jobs." It didn't take long for his case to go public, and as expected, Velasquez received much support from fans and fellow fighters. Cain pleaded not guilty to all charges, and it was questionable whether he would ever get out because he was facing a life sentence. To say that people were disappointed and infuriated by the arrest of the UFC legend and caring father would be an understatement, and the fact that he spent 8 months behind bars is absurd. However, when Cain received $1 million bail, he was released the morning after and placed under house arrest. Velasquez is still fighting court battles. His next hearing is in January 2025. Truth be told, BKFC champion and once entertaining UFC fighter Mike Perry looks like someone who could have problems with law enforcement. As a teenager, he had legal issues, went through the path of drugs and probation violation, and even ended up in jail. MMA saved him, but apparently not enough, as he tended to get into trouble later, such as the 2 arrests from 2020 for a fight in a restaurant and domestic violence. However, Perry was arrested again in Florida in 2024 for DUI and speeding and refused to sign a petition to appear in court. He also insulted the police officers, for which he later publicly repented because he was angry at the moment, and of course, intoxicated. Another former UFC champion, Bellator competitor, and MMA legend has had a speeding problem that could have had dire consequences. It's Quinton "Rampage" Jackson, who went on a speeding rampage in Costa Mesa in 2008. Quinton was arrested on multiple charges: felony of avoiding police, reckless driving, driving against traffic, and hit and run with property damage. The man was fleeing from police on flat tires, talking on the phone, and, most importantly, was sober. He could have gotten 3 years in prison if convicted. However, Jackson did 200 hours of community service, and felony charges were dropped. His reason for speeding was being in a hurry to get to a friend's house to stop him from committing suicide, even though he could have killed several other people in the process. UFC legend BJ Penn was arrested in Hawaii in 2021 for DUI. His latest arrest further convinced us that he definitely has an unhealthy relationship with alcohol. Before that, he was arrested in 2015 for fighting in front of a bar, and in 2019, he fought again. Only this time he got knocked out and the video went viral. Poor Penn has 7 last losses in his MMA career, and this was his 8th. The crazy train doesn't stop there, because in 2020, he was also involved in a collision when he overturned his car and was transported to the hospital. No charges were filed. When he drinks too much, Penn wants to fight everyone, and if that's not possible, he'll drive himself into the nearest wall. A once respected name in the UFC who took the promotion to a new level with the fight against Forrest Griffin, Stephen Bonner, was arrested in Nevada in 2018 for DUI, unsafe movement of a motor vehicle, and resisting arrest. Witnesses say he was driving like a maniac and nearly killed 3 children while putting all other pedestrians in danger. And to make matters worse, this is the 3rd such incident involving the UFC Hall of Famer. The American Psycho truly lived up to his nickname. Here comes Chris Lieben again, but this time accompanied by his better half. In 2015, the Crippler was caught in San Diego after trying to break into his ex-wife's apartment. As love knows no bounds, Lieben earned charges such as 11 counts of disobeying a court order for violating a restraining order, misdemeanor charges of vandalism, and possession of a weapon. Kalina Lieben says she heard a banging on the door at 3 in the morning, and then her ex-husband tried to enter over the balcony. Luckily for her, she managed to hide with a neighbor, and she also says that the day before, he sent her messages where he threatened her father's life, accusing Chris of having mental health problems and drug use. Chris, on the other hand, says that she had a problem with alcohol and that she abused him emotionally and physically, so the whole case is reminiscent of the previous one with Tito Ortiz, just slightly worse. Regardless, Lieben pleaded guilty and earned 120 days jail time and 3 years probation. Jonathan Copenhaver is pushing the boundaries of crime to a new level, but what do you expect from a man who renamed himself War Machine? The former UFC fighter was arrested in Las Vegas in 2007 when he was found guilty of punching a man in the face and choking him unconscious. He was given probation and 30 days of community service for a misdemeanor charge of assault and battery. In 2010, he was sentenced to prison for felony assault with a deadly weapon for a fight in a bar, and bouncers at the scene say he went completely crazy. He tried to evade arrest but was caught after 10 minutes, and a spit bag was placed on his head. Although it is not known what kind of weapon was involved, with his previous problem, this was enough to give him 2 years and 2 months of imprisonment. When he was released, War Machine did not stay free for long, because he caused a problem for which he received a life sentence. You can learn more about it in our video, Every Fastest Career Downfall in UFC History, because the story is worth watching. Instead of fighting at UFC on October 5, 2012, Stevens fought with law enforcement. Well, he didn't really fight, but they came to arrest him after a warrant was issued for a problem he caused in 2011. When he was arrested, he was charged with felony assault and burglary. The report says he and his friend attacked a man and beat him to the point that he stopped breathing twice, all witnessed by the victim's wife. The man was taken to the hospital in critical condition. After his arrest, Stevens was jailed for 15 days, and most of the charges were dropped, with him pleading guilty to 1 count of disorderly conduct, a misdemeanor. Lee Murray was supposed to be a big UFC star, but decided to be known for worse things. The MMA fighter pulled off the biggest money heist in UK history, which amounts to 53 million euros in 2006. The case started with the kidnapping of a bank manager and his family, and then 7 criminals decided to commit a robbery at the Securitas depot. They infiltrated the building and tied up 14 workers, holding them at gunpoint while they extracted huge sums of money, leaving the other 154 million because they had nowhere to put it. The mastermind behind this heist was Lee Murray himself, who fled to Morocco with his friend, but their triumph and fortune were short-lived. After being followed for 3 months, Murray was arrested in Morocco, where the police discovered that he was also charged with possession of hard drugs. As many as 36 people were arrested in 2007, and their indictments are conspiracy to rob, kidnap, possess firearms, and assist an offender. Their prison sentences ranged from 3 years to life, with Lee receiving 25 years. To make matters worse, Murray tried to escape from prison in 2009, but was unsuccessful. Mike Whitehead didn't make it in the UFC, but he did make it to the police station. The incident occurred in 2010 when he tried to sexually assault a 32-year-old woman while she slept, and groping of another 28-year-old woman. The woman says they went home to his barbecue, but after a few drinks, they realized they couldn't drive and stayed for a sleepover, which turned into a horror. He turned himself in to police in 2011 and was charged with sexual assault, attempted sexual assault, and open and gross lewdness, and also faced possible drug charges involving 40 marijuana plants found growing in his home. He pleaded guilty and had to pay $2,400 in restitution, register as a sex offender, and face lifetime supervision from the courts. Whitehead posted $14,000 bail and was released shortly after. If you thought this video would go without Jon Jones, you were wrong. But aren't you tired of constantly hearing about him? So, we'll skip the deep stories and list the reasons why Jon got his mugshots. Worst of all, he didn't serve a single day in prison, mostly getting probation, anger management classes, fines, and a suspended driver's license. In 2012, Jon managed to wrap his Bentley around a pole, where he was charged with DUI. No way he could have done it sober. In 2015, he was involved in a hit-and-run accident where he injured a pregnant 25-year-old woman. Things got worse after he fled the scene of the crime without checking on the victim. An arrest warrant was issued in his name, and a marijuana pipe was discovered in his vehicle. That night, he handed himself into the Albuquerque Police Department, where he was charged with a felony. Not even a year had passed, and Jones found himself back in the Albuquerque PD for violating probation in 2016. He was arrested on 5 charges, which included drag racing and calling a police officer not-so-nice names. In 2020, he was arrested in Albuquerque again and charged with DWI, negligent use of a firearm, and possession of an open container. At this point, it's hard not to think he likes hanging out with Albuquerque cops. In 2021, He got carried away with the celebration in Las Vegas because his fight with Alexander Gustafsson was inducted into the Hall of Fame, which resulted in battery, domestic violence, and injuring or tampering with a police vehicle.
I hate you.
Charles Bennett surpassed even John Jones. The nickname Crazy Horse suits him perfectly. The man has 79 MMA fights and 46 losses, and has fought worldwide, known in Pride, Risen, KOTC, and other smaller promotions. The reason for 2 frequent fights and even more frequent defeats is his persistence to earn bread for the family. However, he has another nickname that goes along with his criminal career: Felony. The guy was arrested 14 times between 1999 and 2009. If we take into account the arrests that were not made public, rumor has it that he was arrested over 20 times. His indictments are mainly burglaries, drug possessions, assaults, aggravated batteries, false imprisonment, and parole/probation charges. You name it, Charles did it, and even smiled on his mugshots. Din Thomas had a unique reason for being arrested. The former UFC competitor organized his own MMA event in ATT Port St. Lucie on October 19, 2007. Lucie Center included 4 fights and 8 of his students, with several police officers in attendance and around 150 spectators. It wasn't until 2 weeks later that the police knocked on his door and came to take him into custody. He could have faced 5 years in prison and was accused of running an illegal cage fighting event that the Florida Boxing Commission did not sanction. The police officers at the event did not even try to stop him, but they had many questions for Thomas. Fortunately, the fighters were his students, so the charges were dropped because there was an exception to the law under which he was arrested. Given that amateur competitions are not allowed in Florida, Thomas decided to organize a small event to give his fighters a realistic view of the competitions that await them if they decide to go to the professional scene. Conor McGregor is another arrest king and a man who is hard to beat when it comes to speeding charges. Best of all, even when caught, Notorious just loves nice cars and fast driving. However, of all the arrests and convictions, Conor only has 2 mugshots on his extensive resume. He got his first in 2018 after the infamous attack on the bus in which his rival Khabib Nurmagomedov was sitting. After a warrant, Conor was arrested 2 days later and convicted of assault and criminal mischief, for which he pleaded guilty. He got out of it through the eye of a needle John Jones style, with an anger management course and community work. His second mugshot comes from the following year. In 2019, he was arrested for smashing the phone of a fan who wanted to record him. After the arrest, he was charged with strong-armed robbery and criminal mischief. He was released on a $5,000 bond, and later on, all the charges were dropped. The funny thing is that this mugshot is used by BoxRec.com and shows profiles of the world's professional boxers, including Conor's. As for the latest conviction, you can find more details in the video on our channel dedicated exclusively to him. However, since the video was made before Conor McGregor was involved in a civil case, it's important to note the following. The victim of a crime won her claim against him. Although dissatisfied with the verdict, denying what was done, he was ordered to pay her more than 250,000 euros in damages. McGregor's business ventures have also faced backlash after the verdict, and things aren't looking good for the influential Irish athlete. Proximo Spirits, the company behind Proper No. 12 whiskey, co-founded by McGregor, has announced it will no longer use his name or image to market the brand. Additionally, video game developer IO Interactive has ended its collaboration with the UFC star and plans to remove McGregor-related content from its Hitman franchise.
Most of those fighters try to hide their dark side behind a clean image. The next one does the exact opposite. He puts it on camera, in press conferences, and on his own podcast.
They call him the people's champ who has no boundaries.
Sean ain't got no filter either. Nope. None of the white guys want to go with me. Only you guys want to fight with me. I was like, hey, what do you mean by you guys? You black guys.
He is a menace to society.
Do you know where the news came from that he punched a fan?
From him.
Yeah. He's a beauty.
And absolutely impossible to tame.
He's a wild boy.
He just kind of gets too involved talking shit about people.
But he's one of the best things to ever happen to the UFC. So here is the thing, you guys. We're bringing you the craziest moments of the one and only Sean Strickland. His first appearance at a press conference is worth its weight in gold, and hopefully there is many more to come. Sean is probably the only man standing while he talks, and the only one roasting the audience.
This is my first press conference. You guys are a bunch of vicious bastards. Man, hearing the way you guys talk, I want to go down there and punch all you in the face. Jesus Christ, you guys are mean. But yeah,
A man filled with traumatic experiences learned to deal with it by using his life as a joke. And his dark humor is just one of the beauties he brings to the camera. The Strickland household was like a private circus where no conversation went smoothly, not even the ones on deathbed.
My dad's dying of cancer. He's doing his like forgiveness speech, and I'm like, I don't give a fuck, dude. I'll go see you. He's like, Sean, you know, I was really bad to you and your mom, but at least I never molested you.
Oh boy,
I was like,
what a low bar.
Hey, you never me.
Give me one of those oxys.
His MMA career went full steam for more than a decade, and Sean went on to achieve the impossible. No one thought that Strickland would become champion by dominating Israel Adesanya. But miracles do happen in MMA, so he did. However, what definitely no one could have predicted was that Sean would break the championship belt the very first morning after winning it.
I already broke my belt, but I have a solution. Good as new.
But that was to be expected from a man who doesn't know in which cup he keeps clean drinking water and which one is filled with, well, he can explain it to you.
God damn it, I drank the wrong cup.
You know, it's a fucked up story. Oh my God. So one day we were riding or I was working on something. It was fucking hot. It was hot. And I walked into my brother's room and I'm like just sweating. And my brother, and he didn't do this intentionally.
Oh my God.
He's like, oh, I have a Gatorade in the refrigerator.
Oh my God.
Yellow Gatorade. Don't ever trust a yellow Gatorade.
Oh my God, that's
Anyways,
so disgusting.
So I'm like dying of thirst, and I grab the yellow Gatorade out of the refrigerator. And I open it, and I just take the biggest fucking gulp of my brother's piss. To this day.
Oh my God, Sean.
To this day, guys, I still can't drink fucking yellow Gatorade. Oh, the level of piss. Yeah, I've drank a lot of piss before, guys. I've drank a lot of piss.
It's so gross!
What's important is that he knows how to be vocal on the microphone and knows how to fight. The only problem is that he doesn't choose who he will hurt, and it's safe to say he doesn't even care. Male, female, for Sean it's all the same. If it crawls, it brawls.
Just one of them. No. Wait till I take my boot off.
Was that for me?
Yes.
No, it was from my... Ow, Sean, my leg! Dude, he's got solid rods in his leg. It's like a flagpole. I'm done. Wave, white flag.
Show him the other one.
Okay. Oh
my God.
What around the side?
I actually feel really bad. That's not good.
Don't get him wrong, Sean loves women. To him, fighting is like having an intimate relationship with them. And Nina Drama is just one example of how women can bring unpredictability into his world.
Remember when we were talking about fighting is like having sex with a woman?
Yes.
Does that mean that Alex f***ed you?
Oh, this f***ing that, you fucking...
You were training with him, so does that make you his bitch?
Oh, this fucking shit. I've never smacked a woman.
Ow! Sean!
Boy!
Ow!
But you're about to call me fucking...
He's a man who has no room in his heart for gender discrimination. He loves men just as much as he loves women, just in a slightly, well, much rougher way. Influencers, for example, get a double dose of love when they step into the ring or cage with Sean.
Get ready? All right, let's make it 3 rounds, Ma. Let's see the influencer. Let's see the influencer. Come on, bro. You're gonna be a f***ing man. Let's be the... There you go. Oh.
One cannot help but wonder what must be missing in a man's head to look for a spar against an MMA fighter who calls himself a functional sociopath. Poor Sneeko just wanted to spar, and Sean was gentle all the way, until the last 10 seconds. Then he showed him the difference between an influencer and a professional MMA fighter. Some thought Sneeko must have said something offensive, but that's not the case. Besides, when did Sean need a valid reason to beat someone up? Another guy is Dennis Douglin, a former boxer who, unlike Sneeko, had something to say on the internet. According to his side of the story, he does the Spar Me Challenge, where you get some money for 10 rounds of sparring, Everything was light sparring until the 10th round when Sean went completely crazy. It turns out that the money Sean won went to charity, and he commented, "This is the first time I have ever given money to charity. The best $100 I have ever spent." Well, there is a first time for everything.
Yeah, I've drank a lot of piss before, guys. I've drank a lot of piss.
Before deciding on the suicidal mission and challenging him to spar, you should do some martial arts training or at least take some self-defense classes. Just don't do it with Dale Brown, because Sean Strickland is proven to be bullshido resistant.
I'm gonna come here.
Oh, man. Sorry about that. We got aggressive here. Let me help you with that. We got aggressive. Sorry about that.
However, there are always worse people than influencers and self-defense masters who want to test Sean, as proven by the man in the following video. On the other hand, Strickland proved the words of his fans that he is indeed a real-life GTA character. This video is a prime example of wrong place, wrong time. This was by no means his night. The guy got drunk, attacked the girl, and jumped into the car to escape from security. He hit a curb, slashed a tire, and then jumped out of the car and tried to hide on the Strickland's property. Sean thought he was stealing his car when he saw him on the camera, so he got out to deal with him. First charity, then catching a bandit. Is anyone else getting Batman vibes? But seriously, out of 1,000,000 yards, he could have trespassed and gotten away with it. He chooses a man who is the embodiment of violence and a huge gun lover.
Did you see his house got broken into?
Yeah.
Pull that video up. What a wrong house to break into.
Out of all the houses.
Out of all the houses to fuck with, that guy. UFC middleweight champion who is a gun nut.
Yeah.
And really knows how to use guns.
On top of that, he's 100% out of his mind. Imagine what it's like for USADA's employees when they have to go test him.
So USADA randomly showed up, and they're waiting for me to take a piss. And they came up while I was shooting.
Jeans, socks, slippers, and a shotgun. The man is everything an American should be. And if you're thinking of showing up at his house unannounced, we have some advice for you. Don't do it.
The 2-week-old unrefrigerated pie. Drum ways to dry. Happy birthday!
Imagine how dangerous he is when he's out in the world when he pulls a gun on his own family and friends. He's a walking murder charge.
If you know me, you would know that I don't leave my house because you see the way these people act in the crowd. If I had to be around these people in public, I would probably get a murder charge. So I don't drink, I don't leave my house, especially that guy clamping right there. That guy's like, yeah, I bet you drive a big lifted truck, your dick's about this big, let's go. Let's go.
Well, he has a valid point, but so does Dana White, who was 100% right when he said,
"You can't bring Sean Strickland around any other human beings."
Luckily, there are rare days when he's in a good mood, has common sense, and will let you go with a warning.
Can I get a chew, papi muñeño?
I don't know who the you are, but in a different setting, I might hit you. Okay, sounds good.
He should be walking with an escort and in shackles because it's only a matter of time before he goes completely crazy. Maybe it wouldn't be bad if he got security. Not for himself though, but for everyone else.
Oh, and
Oh, wow. Oh my goodness.
oh wow.
However, DDP wasn't attacked for no reason. True, Sean doesn't need a good reason, but believe it or not, this time he had one. At the press conference for their fight, Dreykus used Sean's traumatic past to provoke him. Dana White, who has the job of a promoter in his little finger, deliberately had them sit behind each other in the audience. Strickland, who is twice as crazy in front of the cameras, uses the small distance to attack his future opponent. The best thing about that moment was the way he showed Gilbert Burns' kids to move before he went crazy, which is one of the most Strickland things ever. If he doesn't hurt you physically, he'll do it verbally. He's not afraid to point out his own mistakes, so you can bet he'll do the same with others. Being his opponent means listening to him abuse the mic for an entire press conference. In fact, he's so loud he doesn't even need a microphone. It's no wonder he beat Izzy, considering how much he grilled him before their fight. If you came to the press conference just because of Sean, you weren't wrong.
Oh man, I made the champion man with his frosted tips and his gay little watch. Oh no! Man that beats off the cartoons is gonna be me. Grown-ass man on
TikTok. Maybe that's the problem, bro. Bro, you're gonna break a nail. Calm down.
I'll break your face. I'll break your fucking face. I'll break my nail in your face.
This man, he's a solid guy. He's a good guy. I know Judge's cartoon porn addiction. I'm not gonna be that guy. Hey, Izzy, why don't you tell me what not to do?
No one didn't want to be in Robbie Lawler's seat that day, which was the best seat in the house. It was like Israel was made to be mocked by Sean. Strickland had a good comeback to everything he had to say. He's authentic and comes up with a lot of stuff on the spot. However, make no mistake, you don't have to be his opponent to get roasted.
Why don't you guys like Cheeto? He's a fucking warrior. He's a stand-up guy. This top G over here, motherfucker with a status, trying to let dudes fuck his wife. Cheeto's a fucking stand-up motherfucker. He's a fucking hard man.
Let's make America
I got you, fucking Cheeto. Let's go.
go.
Me and Thunder Thumbs himself, you guys. We're here. I'm here. We're all here. Let's have a party. Colby is an utter piece of shit. If you know Colby on a personal level, he fucked over everybody he fucking knows. And I take Colby as a personal insult to me. The Trumpsters, the Republicans, you guys are my fucking people. The blue collar workers, you guys are my fucking people. And you have a cunt like Colby, come in here and taking up the banner. He don't give a fuck about you. And him making fun of Leon's dad, that is the biggest fucking cunt move you can do.
Sean Strickland is a national treasure, and the thing about him is that he says what everyone else is thinking. That's why people love him. He is an eloquent, direct, honest, and politically oriented man. After all, what can they do to him? Sue him?
I don't give a fuck about being sued. You think I give a fuck about that?
Ah, the true man of the people who doesn't give a duck if he will get canceled.
You're in Toronto. Welcome. Glad to hear it. It's been great.
Are you Canadian?
Of course I am.
Are you part of the fucking opposition? Are you?
I don't know how to phrase that.
You got like, yeah.
Well, I did want to ask.
Did you vote for Trudeau?
I'm not gonna say.
And let me tell you something right now. If a man says he's not gonna say, like if you ask him, motherfucker, did you vote for Biden? He's like, well, I'm not gonna say. That's none of your business. He voted for fucking Biden.
Sean,
so hey,
Sean, I'm glad you've had great experiences.
So this is what I'm talking about, you guys. The enemy of Canada.
We've got a pretty supportive gay and lesbian community in this city. I did want to ask you about something you wrote a couple of years ago. You said if I had a gay son, I would think I'd...
Oh, look, another. I'm saying in the swamp, you guys, the swamp.
You become a champion, you become a star, and someone says...
Let me ask you something. Are you gay?
I've had the chance to interact with a more diverse...
Are you? Let me know. Are you gay?
Could I get an answer?
Well, no, I'm asking. This is a part of. Are you a gay man?
I'm an ally of the community.
Okay. If you had a son, then he was like, he had a son, he was gay. You'd be like, oh man, you don't want a grandkid?
No problem with it.
Oh man, well, dude, you're a weak fucking man, dude. You're part of the fucking problem. You elected Justin Trudeau, when he sees the bank accounts, you're just fucking pathetic. The fact that you have no fucking backbone, and has he shut down your fucking country and seized bank accounts? You ask me some stupid shit like that, go fuck yourself. Move the fuck on, man.
I feel like that really answered the question, but I did want to ask also things you said about the trans community. You said this past October when they announced the Bud Light sponsorship that you'd go so hard on Bud Light in your next fight, they'll have to accept me or denounce me when they know what, and will know what they stand for. Are you still going to use your fight time to kind of speak on that?
Here's the thing about Bud Light. 10 years ago, to be trans was a mental fucking illness. And now all of a sudden, people like you have fucking weaseled your way into the world. You are an infection. You are the definition of weakness. Everything that is wrong with the world is because of fucking you. And the best thing is the world's not buying it. The world's not buying your fucking bullshit you're fucking peddling. The world is not saying, you know what? You're right. Fucking chicks have dicks. The world's not saying that. The world's saying, no, there are two genders. I don't want my kids being taught about, who they could fuck in school. I don't want my kids being taught about, their sexual preference. Dude, this guy is the fucking enemy. You want to look at the fucking enemy to our world? It's that motherfucker right there.
Notice how he read the reporter's intentions in the first 3 seconds. Judging by the feedback, he made many Canadians proud and earned many fans. If he ever runs for president, you know who to vote for.
I'm fighting Izzy the Chinese man, you guys, and here's the thing. I always call Izzy the Chinese champion, but Izzy's not the Chinese champion. Izzy is a modern day man. Izzy is a Chinese slut. He sold himself for $1, and you guys, we're gonna bring that belt back to America. Let's fucking go.
We can all agree that Sean is the gift that keeps on giving, and his love for his fans is from the bottom of his soul. So here is the thing, you guys.
And last thing, before I go, you guys are fucking awesome. I love you guys. You guys love me when I get knocked out. You love me when I win. You love me when I offend Helen. You love me when I insult Smo. And I love you for that, you fucking deranged bastards.
Strickland is chaos in one person. But the UFC has been generating chaos just fine without him for 30 years, across every weight class, at almost every major event.
Since its first event in 1993, the UFC has experienced many extremely controversial moments.
I hate you.
But it's not just the fighters who act against common sense.
I think it's disgusting. I think he's disgusting, and I never want to see him reffing ever again.
And what's worse, even the organization itself can neglect its own fighters.
If you don't like how we run our business, go start your own.
But nothing radiates the word controversial like Jon Jones. We have seen fighters who fail doping tests, suffer defeats due to illegal strikes, win fights they should have lost, or have problems with law enforcement. Bones, on the other hand, managed to check all of the above in 16 years in the UFC. A man has to be a special specimen to destroy his reputation year after year but remains the GOAT. Of course, that wouldn't be possible if Jon wasn't truly dominant in the cage fighting. Otherwise, he would fly out of the promotion upside down 10 years ago.
Jon, you're a freaking inspiration. I love you, man. But like Kanye West, it is hard to be your fan. What?
We are talking about a man who has more arrests than Khabib Nurmagomedov has title defenses.
His first scandal happened in 2012 when he participated in a one-car accident in New York, crashing his Bentley. Although he was driving under the influence, he received a 6-month driving license suspension and a $1,000 fine. No big deal, it can happen to anyone. But it was just the beginning for Jones. A man goes out on the road to cause trouble after every 2 or 3 title defenses. Bones is a master of keeping his MMA and felony scores perfect. However, this was only one of his incidents, and you will hear a lot more about his troubled future.
I used to respect Jon Jones before this, like a lot of the fighters, but I don't respect him after this. When you get caught for doping, he's not a martial artist, none of them are. You get no respect from me, none.
Jon Jones and steroids have always been closely linked, and the same can be said for Mark Hunt. But Hunt wasn't the one who used them, but the one who fought against its use, and fought against people using them. Accordingly, the super experienced Hunt is known for 3 things. 1, his hard Samoan head. 2, being a walk-off knockout king. And 3, fighting steroid users since 2013. One-eyed Michael Bisping and Vitor Belfort are the best examples of why fighters on steroids should not be allowed in the cage. The fact that Mark is hard to knock out does not mean he should be given juiced-up killers as opponents.
So big.
That's a different species of human being, those Samoas.
It all started in 2013 when he participated in a bloody main event against Antonio Bigfoot Silva. The maximally competitive heavyweight fight lasted 5 fiery rounds, and Mark, who entered with blonde hair, came out as red as a canary. The result was a draw. The fighters were awarded the Fight of the Night bonus, but then the doping tests came out and ruined everything. Turns out Bigfoot tested positive for increased testosterone on a post-fight drug test. The duel against Bigfoot Silva wasn't the only issue with juiced-up athletes that Mark had to deal with. But with the arrival of 2014, we returned to Jon Jones again.
Thank you guys so much for having us. Hey, Brody, are you still there?
It's a real shame that the first fight between him and Daniel Cormier did not take place in 2014 as planned. Jones was injured, withdrew due to a leg injury, and the fight was moved to UFC 182. Because of this, the fans were left without a fiery treat. Now you're probably wondering, but what exactly is controversial about the Bones injury? Well, nothing about the injury, believe it or not. Jones really got hurt. What is important is the chaos that arose at the press conference of UFC 178. The tension was over the roof, especially because before DC and Jon did their face-off, Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor exchanged glances before their first meeting. It was obvious that they wanted to bite each other's heads off, but luckily that didn't happen. However, the same cannot be said for Daniel and Jones, who broke the boundaries of tension and caused a fight. Maybe we didn't get their fight in the octagon, but we did at the press conference. Of all the cameras present, the madness was captured from the best angle. This is exactly what happens when 2 alpha males meet each other face to face.
Now, I'll tell you this right now. When I was in that press fight with Jon Jones, I was still undefeated at the time, and we were at the MGM Grand, and he headbutted me, like put his head on me. So I push him. He's an alpha male too, so the attacks me. Right. So we get to fighting, and we're fighting, and Joe, the security guard from the UFC, falls under me. But now I'm on my back as we go flying off of the stage. I will say there was a thought to bite the because like, what am I doing on my back? I'm losing.
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna bite the son of a bitch. I ain't got no mouthpiece in my mouth. Like, and if I would have bit him, that would have been like a reaction for a guy that usually will walk around in most places around this world as the alpha. And then when he finds himself on the bottom as the alpha, he's got to find a way to survive.
Speaking of alpha males, who in heaven's name let CM Punk into the UFC?
It's a little late to get into the game. Who knows if he can fight?
Oh, right. Even though there is an ocean of professional and amateur fighters who are more skilled, experienced, and deserving to perform under the UFC lights, Phillip Brooks signed the contract in 2014.
Are you a UFC fighter? Are you a UFC fighter? I'm on.
When Dana was asked about CM Punk's limited MMA experience, he took the opportunity to compare him to Brock Lesnar, no less. Never mind that Lesnar is a giant monster with Division I wrestling experience. When you look at the factors that include 1. Age and physical limitations, 2. Lack of experience in MMA fighting and training, 3. A new kind of performance pressure because this is not WWE. Any normal person would say that Phillip is not even for Cage Warriors, let alone the UFC, as his fights against Mickey Gall and Mike Jackson show in the end.
The guy's 39 years old, the nicest guy in the world. We gave him 2 shots and he got allowed Lord tonight. I think we should call it a rout.
Well, props to Phillip for facing his fears and showing up to fight twice despite everything.
I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs.
Yes, drugs. Here we go with another steroid issue. We move on to 2015, which was not a kind year for Anderson Silva. Not that the 3 years before that went well for him, but 2015 was the era when a great sports legend tarnished his reputation due to positive tests. In January, Anderson returned after a 1-year break due to a nasty broken leg and got Nick Diaz as his opponent. The original result of the fight was a unanimous decision win for the Spider, but the NSAC overturned it into a no contest when it was revealed that Anderson tested positive for drostanolone and androsterone.
The Anderson Silva situation, there's reports that he failed another drug test on fight night. What can you tell us? I mean, it seems to be one that really bothered everybody in the industry to see perhaps the greatest of all time, fail some drug test.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, it screwed me up for a few days. I was messed up for a few days after that. I've been a huge Anderson Silva fan too, but we'll talk about that on Wednesday. I'll see you Wednesday in Vegas.
At the disciplinary hearing, Anderson received a 1-year suspension, got fined $380,000, and had to submit a clean test before he could be relicensed. He admitted his mistake and said that he is just a man who, like everyone else, is prone to mistakes, with the justification that he exchanged steroids for sex pills. Although illegal substances are a big red flag among MMA fans, there is a double controversy when it comes to the case of Nick Diaz. This is where it gets interesting because his opponent wasn't sober on fight night either. Anderson's sentence pales in comparison to Diaz's career-ruining 5-year marijuana suspension.
Let's all just talk about it. You do steroids, I'll smoke weed, and let's get in there and squat. You sneak steroid in and then you're considered, you're out of the question. The whole legacy is gone and done with.
If you thought that this year could go by without Jon Jones making a problem, you are sorely mistaken.
Did I mention to you guys that Jon Jones is the greatest of all time?
Not only that, but he managed to hang out with the police in 2016 as well. Johnny Boy crashed into a vehicle that was driven by a pregnant woman and left the crime scene. In all this, the police found drug paraphernalia in his vehicle. John was lucky enough to avoid jail time and was punished with 18 months probation and community service. Although this was one of the worst scandals, Jones didn't stop there. Next year, he was arrested for a probation violation for drag racing in Albuquerque, New Mexico. While Jones gets back-to-back arrests, Mark Hunt continues the anti-doping wars in the same year. One can say it's a coincidence, but Hunt got a new opponent in 2016. It was former heavyweight champion Frank Mir, who also enjoyed banned substances, more specifically, turinabol metabolites. However, it did not make a difference in his performance because he was knocked out in the first round. We would like to say that this is the end of his problems, but Mark continued his anti-doping crusade the same year. It happened at UFC 200, where he says he felt like he was being thrown under the bus. He fought Brock Lesnar, who, you won't believe it, failed a doping test on clomiphene.
You gotta realize that the testing back then was horse. The best way was to show when Alistair Overeem fought Brock. That was the steroid Olympics.
He lost a fight against a visibly stronger D1 wrestler and decided he had enough. Instead of the octagon, he took the fight to court, where he sued the UFC, Brock, and Dana White for fraud. Unfortunately for Hunt, he lost the lawsuit, but NSAC overturned his loss to no contest. This did not play a big role because such exhibitions completely destroyed his will for further competition.
Mark Hunt he's lost so many lawsuits against us, it's insane. He's a bit of a delusional guy. He's gonna have to pay some legal fees.
To make matters worse, he was later offered a fight in Australia against Josh Barnett, who is also known as a steroid user. At this point, Mark didn't know if someone was messing with him or if they were being real. Hunt turned it down with the comment that he is tired of fighting juiced-up monkeys.
They're cheaters in the end. That's basically all they are. They should get nothing.
Do you know what else is dangerous for a fighter's life besides steroids? It's Mario Yamasaki on refereeing duty. What John Jones is among the fighters, Mario Yamasaki is among the referees. If the fighter's heart is still beating, then the fight is not over yet. If he dies, he dies. If it crawls, it brawls. These are just some of Mario's mottos, so you can understand the point.
I think it's disgusting. I think he's disgusting, and I never want to see him reffing ever again.
The Brazilian has been judging for over 20 years, where he has seen off over 400 bouts and many famous fighters, and he is one of the first judges at the UFC. He has refereed many major promotions and earned a name worthy of respect. But somewhere along the way, his refereeing license became questionable as more than CM Punk's MMA skill. His ancestors must have organized gladiator fights to the death, and Yamasaki continued the controversial tradition. Let's recall just one of the moments when he let one fighter try to kill another. In the fight between Derek Lewis and Travis Brown in 2017, Lewis clipped Brown with the right hand and sent him to the floor. Instead of jumping in right away because Travis was a dead body, Mario was clapping and yelling, "Defend yourself!" And Derek threw 11 additional ground and pound shots. Let's be real, the Black Beast is the last man you want hitting your unconscious body from the top position. Whenever you think you're unlucky in your life, remember that Priscilla Cachoeira made her debut against the killer Valentino Shevchenko. To make matters worse, the referee was Mario Yamasaki, and the fight was hard to watch for those with bad stomachs. If you haven't watched the fight, don't do it.
He said that he was allowing Priscilla to be a warrior.
Poor Priscilla absorbed too many unwarranted hits before Yamasaki remembered he had the power to stop the fight. By the time we got to the end, even those who were watching had received CTE. Both Dana White and the general public took offense at Mario, and the latter chose to have him fired from the UFC.
She did fight like a warrior. For that idiot to say that he gave her the opportunity to be a warrior, no, you moron. You're in there to protect her from herself.
It's funny how it all ends up going over Dana White's back. Being in charge of the UFC means you're at the epicenter of controversy with every decision you make. Do you know what else went over the president's back in the same year Yamasaki was released? We will help you. It was a fight between his favorite fighter, Conor McGregor, and the bus where Khabib Nurmagomedov was sitting. It was a controversial year for the UFC. According to many witnesses and cameras, Conor ran into the Barclays Arena loading dock, where several UFC fighters were loaded into a vehicle, but he was not alone.
Who are these guys? Connor's guys. What the is wrong with him?
He went full Notorious Madman mode. He started banging on the windows, screaming in an Irish accent, and calling for Khabib to come outside. When that didn't happen, Conor threw a steel dolly and crashed the window. Pieces of broken glass scattered and injured Michael Chiesa and Ray Borg, who were taken to the hospital. Fortunately, the cuts were not life-threatening, but their fights had to be canceled. The good thing about all this madness is that Conor was stopped multiple times when he tried to break the windows with much larger objects.
This is the most disgusting thing that has ever happened in the history of the company. And there is a warrant out for Conor McGregor's arrest. They're looking for him right now. He's going to be sued beyond belief. And this was a real bad career move for him.
Dana White, although disgusted with McGregor's act, later used the videos to promote his fight with Khabib. Just Dana White doing Dana White things. The Irish gang rode off into the sunset and as far away from the crime scene as possible.
While everyone else on the bus was shocked, Khabib was as cold as ice and threw out one of his famous quotes.
Send me a message like location, I'm gonna come, wherever you want, doesn't matter, Ireland, New York, Brooklyn or Moscow, doesn't matter. Tell me.
But as no problem comes alone, this one didn't happen without any reason. Conor didn't react this violently just because he woke up in a bad mood. In fact, he came to defend his friend from his future enemy. Artem Lobov openly criticized Khabib in one of the Russian interviews, calling him the P word. He drew attention to Khabib's pullout of the fights, adding that a real champion fights no matter what. Unfortunately for Lobov, he didn't have that same energy when Khabib approached him with a few friends. You already know what Dagestanis are like when it comes to trash talk about them. As soon as Nurmagomedov saw Artem, he confronted him. He held his neck and told him to tell everything to his face, adding that he should stop talking about him and that this was his last warning. The Irish-Russian fighter, what a wonder, denied that he said anything, which angered the Eagle even more. Fortunately, many people were in the hotel corridor, and everything ended with a light but disrespectful slap to Artem's neck. Or so everyone thought. The situation gets complicated when Artem leaves the place and tells McGregor what happened. Conor, being as crazy as he is, but loyal to the bone, picked up a few buddies, boarded his private jet, and flew to Brooklyn to wreak havoc. Fast forward, McGregor got arrested 2 days later after attacking the company bus, but struck a plea deal to avoid more serious charges. This by no means meant that he would avoid the fierce punishment that Khabib and his relatives would carry out. UFC 229 from 2018 can have another title, and that is UFC Fight Night when all hell broke loose. Khabib finished the Irishman with a neck crank submission in the 4th round, but it was clearly not enough to calm him down after all the trash talk. He found his next victim in the audience, and it was one of McGregor's jiu-jitsu coaches, Dylan Danis, on whom the Eagle landed with both feet. His relatives pounced on Conor, who was still in the ring, and utter chaos ensued. We literally had a fight after the fight, and a massive one at that. This is the first time in history that something like this has happened, and it happened in the main event of one of the most anticipated fights ever. The result of the whole circus is that Conor got a free lesson in modesty and respect, and Khabib let it be known that Dagestanis are not people to mess with and that trash talk must have limits.
This is a respect sport, This is not trash talking sport. You cannot talk about religion, you cannot talk about nation, and this is for me is very important. Thank you so much. Thank you guys. Thank you for waiting for me here. I know my father gonna smash me when I go home because I know he's gonna smash me. Nevada, sorry. Vegas, sorry. And Alhamdulillah, undisputed, undefeated UFC lightweight champion.
This explosive year also had some questionable fighters new to the promotion. It was Greg Hardy, known as the Prince of War. Although during the competition in the NFL, he was known to fans for plenty of shady stuff. In April 2018, it was announced Hardy was coming to Dana White's Contender Series, where he would make his debut. Greg excelled with TKOs in the first rounds, but his fighting skills were not under question.
This guy paid his dues. He lost everything. He's been building himself up for the last 5 years. He's done everything a human being is supposed to do, and here he is.
In 2014, Hardy was arrested for assault and communication threats against his ex-girlfriend. Although he was found guilty, 9 months later the charges were dismissed and expunged from his record. That's not all, because in 2016, he was arrested for possession of cocaine in Texas after the police searched his car. Upon learning of Hardy's past, MMA fans did not hesitate to voice their opinions when the controversial NFL player joined the UFC. Many supporters had the opinion that someone who has been convicted of multiple crimes should not be allowed to compete among the world's top fighters.
The people you're referring to, is this related to the past controversy that's always linked to you?
Yeah, a lot of past stuff. I'm a good guy, been a good guy, innocent man, always have been.
Despite this, the Prince of War remained in the UFC, competing until March 2022, where he did not have much success. And here he comes again.
Guys, let me explain something to you. John Jones is a whole nother. I consider John Jones the greatest combat fighter of all time.
A whole nother level indeed. Yeah, we get you, Dana. He is truly special, and in 2020, he continues to amaze us with his record-breaking personality. DWI, negligent use of a firearm, driving without proof of insurance, and possession of an open container. You name it, Jones did it. When you look at his record, it looks like he's been competing against himself and not just other UFC competitors.
Jones yesterday was being inducted in the Hall of Fame, and then hours later, going to jail. What is the situation right now?
It's hard to bring this guy to Las Vegas for any reason. The city is not good for Jon Jones. And here we are again.
The man managed to be inducted into the UFC's Hall of Fame and charged with misdemeanor battery, domestic violence, and injury or tampering with a police vehicle, all in a few hours.
This is so humiliating. I got the Hall of Fame tonight, and then you're gonna put me on this. I hate you. I hate you.
In order to not turn a video about UFC controversies into a documentary about Jon's criminal life, we will skip his use of cocaine and steroids, which doesn't mean we won't return to his mischief again later. It seems that the big stars of the UFC bring a lot of problems with them, because the next fighter is also the target of big and frequent controversies. From late 2020 until 2021, we almost lost the undefeated Chechen fighter Khamzat Chimaev. His stardom experienced success very quickly, and it seemed as if no one would stop him. That's thanks to his crazy personality and tendency to finish a fight quickly and efficiently. And, of course, get back in the cage in 15 days and do the same thing again.
The guy's special. I've been in this game my whole life. I've never seen anything like him. He's special, he's different. He wants to fight again. So, you know, I've never been in a position where I'm like, who's next? How do we get him a fight? It's fun and I like it. I think when you're a fight fan, a guy like this is the type of guy that you love to watch and follow.
His job was to collect bonuses and break his own records. He was so close to a UFC welterweight title shot, and his untouchable aura grew with each subsequent fight. However, Chimaev was suddenly stopped, but his opponent was not any other fighter but the pandemic that ruled the world at the time. The known symptoms of this disease were all present in Boers. In that period, he was supposed to fight Leon Edwards, but the fight was canceled as many as 3 times due to his health condition. He was not the only fighter attacked by COVID, but he turned out to be one of the worst cases. Doctors found serious damage on his lungs that resembled pneumonia and asthma, and used a lot of medication to try to help him. The fact that he has publicly mentioned several times that he might retire is the best indication of the seriousness of the situation. If you know Chimaev, you know how difficult it was for him to share this with the world. It was a question of whether he would live up to his potential or if the UFC would be left without a big star.
I have missed seeing you fight a lot. I think one of the things when you first came into the UFC, it was incredible. You fought, twice in 10 days and 3 times in 10 months. Do you miss those days when you were it seemed like you were just constantly in the gym and constantly fighting?
Yeah, of course. I want to see my fight. I want to go in the cage.
While we all thought that Khamzat was hard and persistent and that he would fight off the disease, the opposite happened. His mentality and relentlessness only made things worse for him. Chimaev, considered one of the hardest working fighters on the roster, had a hard time following doctors' orders. He was not willing to rest enough, which was not wise in his case. Even a few years later, his condition was being questioned. Khamzat was hospitalized twice, which resulted in the cancellation of 2 important fights against Paulo Costa and Robert Whittaker, which shows that the disease left a big mark on him. We would like to say that the health condition of Chimaev in 2021 is the only controversial thing in his case, but that would be far from the truth. In 2022, Chimaev was supposed to have a welterweight bout against Nate Diaz at UFC 279, but he appeared at the weigh-in with 7.5 extra pounds. As if his health problems didn't make it difficult for him to return to the cage, Boers has proven to be irresponsible when it comes to cutting weight. What particularly angered fans was the fact that he showed no concern or remorse over his failed weight cut. Even more, he flipped off the booing crowd on the ceremonial weigh-ins.
First of all, it's about the weight. How did you miss weight by that much?
They stopped that shit. I don't know. I want to more continue that shit. Hey, this is Chechen, shut it up, guys. And I'll you boy up. I'm backstage as well. Woo!
What are your thoughts about this fight moving from the Diaz fight to now you fighting Kevin Holland because of the weight loss?
I don't care. I want to smash everybody. I come here everybody, no? I'm going to take it over now.
All right, well, good luck to you, sir. We'll see you tomorrow night.
What is your reaction to putting him in a title fight at some point if he's missing weight by 8.5 pounds?
Yeah, no, it's a problem. That's a problem that he missed weight. We got to look at it and figure it out.
Due to the mentioned problems, the event had to be mixed up. So Chimaev was given Kevin Holland as his opponent, and Diaz was promised a showdown against Tony Ferguson. That wasn't all either, because the preparations for UFC 279 proved very stressful for Dana White and the company's employees, and the event itself seemed to be cursed. The press conference, which had enormous potential due to the different characters that would be on stage, had to be canceled at the last minute.
What's up, guys? We start by apologizing for how long this has been. This is the weirdest thing I've ever been a part of. We had a big show breakout back there. Yeah, this ain't gonna happen. I apologize, everybody. I am in very weird waters here. This has never happened in the history of this company. So trust me when I tell you this is the right decision not to do this press conference right now. And yeah, I'm with you. For everybody's safety, this is the right decision.
The backstage altercation of all those characters was the main reason for that. According to White, Khamzat Chimaev and Kevin Holland had a conflict that almost erupted into a huge problem. Later, Nate Diaz allegedly joined in, while Tony Ferguson watched everything carelessly with his sunglasses. Instead of a press conference, it might have been best for Dana White to turn on the cameras and record the skirmishes backstage. Many blamed the president for a lack of professionalism, but everything was forgotten on the night of the event, which was superb. Khamzat has always wanted to be a sports great like John Jones, and due to the controversies surrounding him, he could catch up very soon. Health problems, weight-cutting issues, pulling out of fights, it is very hard to get this kid into the cage. He is forced to compete in the middleweight division, which he usurped in 2024.
Is he fucking awesome?
Until we get there, we'll give you a break from Khamzat with a few other controversies from 2022. UFC 282 is an event that started great, scoring 10 straight finishes, but when it came to the main and co-main events, well, everything went downhill. The co-main event featured the new cash cow of the UFC, Paddy Pimblett, and Jared Gordon in the lightweight bout. From the start, Jared began punishing Paddy's low-hand guard, cutting off his attacks with clean shots. Pimblett clearly learned nothing from the criticism, struggling poorly for the level at which he competes. He ignored advice from the corner and defended shots with his chin. Even when he wanted to show his wrestling ability, he would end up under Gordon. Jared, on the other hand, handled the fight intelligently and got the better of the striking exchanges. Although Gordon was convincingly better, Paddy took the win, leaving fans and experts annoyed and open to criticism. Pimblett was not that bad, but the victory given to him should be investigated by the FBI. Jared has learned to not leave anything in the hands of the judges, especially when he's fighting against a guy with the Dana White privilege. The fact that Paddy the Baddy didn't want to accept defeat and reacted poorly to Joe Rogan's honest comment only made the public more furious.
You know, I don't like when someone gets by just because they're famous and they have this big personality and everybody loves them. The problem with that is people are going to be rooting against him now in the next fight. And so now he's going to go in there against someone, and maybe he's going to go in against someone who's on another level.
I'm pretty pissed off, to be honest, lad. Joe Rogan come in and said that was a close fight. I was like, what are you on about, lad?
Adding fuel to the fire, the main event was headlined by Jan Blachowicz and Magomed Ankalaev for the vacant light heavyweight title. Jan was coming off a TKO via knee injury against Rakic, and Magomed was on a 9-fight winning streak against an elite competition. The Poles served brutal kicks in the earlier rounds, but Ankalaev adjusted. The Russian out-wrestled him with significant control in the championship rounds and led in strikes. The fight stretched over 5 rounds, and the final announcement surprised even Jan. The fight ended in a split draw. The decision is not as bad as in the fight before this one, but quite heavy to digest, considering that the title was at stake. Naturally, fan opinions were divided, and debates ensued. Everyone has the right to their opinion. But the fact that Jan accepted the defeat during the result call-out, raising his hand and pointing to Ankalaev, speaks volumes. Blachowicz also said in the post-fight interview that he does not know if he lost, but that he is sure he did not win. Daniel Cormier, John Anik, and Joe Rogan discussed the decision immediately after the fight at the commentary table, where they shared their opinions.
I find it interesting that Derek Cleary gave Magomed Ankalaev that 3rd round despite all of the leg kicks, right? Because had that scorecard gone the other way, then things would have been different.
It's so hard to say, but the telling thing is Blachowicz thought he lost the fight. At the end of it, Blachowicz said, give him the belt.
Not to take anything from Jan Blachowicz. He landed some good shots. But this dude, I thought he was...
At the end of the fight.
This was not the end of the controversy for Magomed Ankalaev, who is now on a 10-fight winning streak and still hasn't earned his right to challenge for the title.
The only thing worse than everything else on this unfortunate night is the fact that Pimblett thought to get the Fight of the Night bonus for this circus.
Stay there! Shut the fuck up.
He could have been a big star if he hadn't wallowed in the mud of shame after this one. The UFC offered him a contract because they knew he would bring a lot of eyes to the sport. But hey, whatever you think about him, Paddy is good for their business. 2023 is the year we finally reach the end of the Jon Jones controversies. We will probably write about the sequel again in 2026, but before we are done with him, there is one more thing. Jon delighted his fans when he came up in the division after a 3-year hiatus and defeated Cyril Gane to become the heavyweight champion in the blink of an eye. This was a great chance to take on Stipe Miocic and break pay-per-view records. However, no sweetness with him lasts long. Bones got hurt, the fight got cancelled, and instead of vacating the title, Jon decided to halt the entire heavyweight division. Nothing would be terrible if the current interim champion, Tom Aspinall, wasn't forced to defend the interim title, which is very rare in MMA sport and extremely unfair. It's an understatement to say that this latest move drew the ire of the MMA community on Jones. Instead of fighting, he took his fists to social media. The GOAT just can't act straight. The only person worse than him in all of this is Dana White, who loyally guards his back and daily battles the media calling him the greatest of all time. We can agree with him on that, but the fact that he calls Tom Aspinall an up-and-coming fighter climbing the ladder while the guy is defending the interim belt is the craziest thing ever. All this while pushing Stipe versus Jon with full force.
There's no doubt. I mean, this guy is a scary dude, and he looks like the future of the heavyweight division. But at the same time, he's working his way up, climbing up the ladder, and everybody's like, he deserves this, and he deserves that, and he doesn't deserve anything. He looks great, and he looks like he's gonna be the guy. You got Stipe and Jon, who have paid their dues. They've been here forever. They fought everybody. They fought all the fights that you could possibly fight. These guys deserve to fight each other.
Come to think of it, at least Jones never crossed the line when it came to trash talk. Believe it or not, there is some nastiness he was not a part of. The same cannot be said for the next fighter, who was once again a participant in controversies with his vile language. The last event in 2023 was supposed to be a high-quality end of the year, but it did not meet the expectations. After only one victory, Colby Covington got the chance to win the welterweight belt for the 3rd time. The UFC has a strange way of handing out opportunities. Obviously, it's not how well you fight, but how well you speak. However, what happened has nothing to do with an undeserved opportunity, but crossing the boundaries of trash talk that tarnishes this sport. Welterweight champion Leon Edwards won the title after a long wait with a brilliant high kick. He extinguished Kamaru Usman in the last minute of the fight, and in the next match, he defeated him by decision to cement himself as a true champion. Miraculously, Colby was next in line and used the death of Edwards' father for entertainment purposes at the press conference. Edwards' gang-involved father was murdered in a nightclub when Leon was 13. This traumatic experience left a big psychological scar on the welterweight champion, and Colby decided to deliver the low blow. If we remember his excessive trash talk with Usman and Masvidal, we can say that the fans often found it funny. But this time, people found it disgusting, disrespectful, and not at all funny and entertaining.
Excuse of a human being.
Hey, let me see you guys Colby fans in here. Give me a show of hands. You guys, let me give you some facts on Colby. Colby is an utter piece of shit.
What do you know about facts? You can't even read, bro.
Explain to Colby what Colby is. If you know Colby on a personal level, he f***ed over everybody he f***ing knows. And I take Colby as a personal insult to me. The Trumpsters, the Republicans, you guys are my f***ing people. The blue-collar workers, you guys are my f***ing people. And you have a like Colby, like Colby, come in here and taking up the banner. He don't give a about you. And him making fun of Leon's dad, that is the biggest cunt move you can do. That is the biggest move to do.
I do have to ask, I know you said that we're in the fight game and people say mean things, but did anything this week bother you at all?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It bothered everybody, I think. Listen, what I say is true. We're in the fight games, lots of mean things are said, and one of the things that I really don't like is family. When you start going after family and whether it's the kids, the wife, the parents, the whatever, it's just such a nasty thing to do. But this is one of those sports where you say horrible things and then 24 hours later, it goes down.
And indeed, it all went down. Colby was completely dominated in 25 minutes, and his performance was unlike any before. Karma stopped him for the third time when he threw a nasty kick and hit Edwards' elbow in the first round. A broken foot left him crippled for the rest of the fight, which Leon took advantage of like a champion. The only sad thing is that he didn't knock him out, but a win is a win. Leon also addressed the controversial moment and revealed that he cried after the press conference because of Colby's words. Well, Covington is not the only one who found himself in an undeserved title fight, because the year 2024 also had its own questionable title shots. We all remember what Sean Strickland did to Israel Adesanya in 2023 to become the unexpected champion by completely dominating him through 5 rounds. The triumph did not last long, because the Tarzan lost the title to Dricus du Plessis in early 2024 with a controversial judge's decision in a fight that could have at least been a draw.
I had it 2-2 going into the last round, and I thought Strickland won the last round.
Funny that Dana says this, considering he scheduled a title fight between Dricus du Plessis and Israel Adesanya. Dricus did not convincingly defeat the champion, and the champion did not get an immediate rematch after that. Instead, the dominated Israel entered, who, after the last defeat, still got a chance for the title. Adesanya shouldn't have gotten an immediate rematch against Sean, let alone a fight against a fighter who won questionably. UFC matchmaking logic has left the chat, but it seems things will keep on going sideways for Tarzan. The UFC is apparently giving him the Ankalaev treatment. He might get a nervous breakdown because this will be the second time in 2024 that he has been overlooked for a well-deserved title shot. While waiting for the result of the fight between Israel and Dricus, Sean could sit and do nothing because the title shot was promised. However, he decided to accept the fight against Paulo Costa and make his fans happy. He would have succeeded if Costa had not walked backward the entire fight and ran away from the promised war.
We're gonna bleed for you guys. I appreciate you guys. I'm gonna sacrifice some brain cells for you guys. I love you guys. For America!
Fans will agree when we say the fight was boring, but we bet you won't agree when we tell you it wasn't Strickland's fault. He won by a fair and convincing decision that could not have passed without controversial scorecards. Judge Dave Torelli scored the bout 49-46 in favor of the Brazilian fighter. His card was in stark contrast to his fellow judges, who had it 49-46 and 50-45 to Strickland. It looks like the UFC will have to introduce doping tests for the judges before and after each event, because they obviously don't watch the same fights as we do.
Co-main event, Sean Strickland beat Paulo Costa. There was kind of a weird judges' scorecard in there they gave it to Paulo, I think.
It wasn't weird, it was fucking nuts is what it was. It's insane. That guy should never ref a big fight again. They should kick him back down to the minor leagues and let him work on his judging. It's unbelievable.
However, regardless of the president acknowledging Sean's good performance, it looks like Strickland won't get the rematch he deserves, judging by the last big event. Now Khamzat Chimaev enters again, and after a long break and all the problems, finally walked to the octagon. We waited for him for a whole year, and he only needed a minute and a half to make Robert Whittaker's teeth backward. The current middleweight champion also announced that he would rather defend his title against Chimaev than give Sean a rematch.
Because I think the presumption before the fight was that you and Sean would rematch. Obviously, that was a fun fight, a very competitive fight, and I know one that he has said, hey, give me this rematch. I deserve it. Did Khamzat do enough in your mind? You're the champion. Did he do enough to jump Sean, and does he deserve the next title shot against you?
It was the first guy to ever submit Rob, and he did in the first round. And that warrants a jump the gun on Sean Strickland for me. And if you ask me personally, that's a fight I would rather want, because it's a fight that the people want, it's a fight that more fans want, and I believe Khamzat is the next best guy.
Fans are right. Props to Dricus for not avoiding the scariest character in the division, but giving him a title shot before Strickland would be absurd, especially with what they did to him regarding DDP versus Israel Adesanya. Dana White has not announced anything officially, but since we all know the way he thinks, we can assume what will happen next. We just have to wait for further questions related to this topic. However, he could have difficulties when it comes to scheduling a fight with Khamzat Chimaev. Only if DDP is ready to defend the title in the Middle East, because, from 2024, Boris cannot get a visa for the United States. Chimaev apparently fell into the bad company of Ramzan Kadyrov. Dana White wanted to put him in to headline UFC 300, but the plan fell through after Khamzat boasted about his new friendship.
So I even saw the Chechen leader, Ramzan. He surprised you with a Mercedes-Benz?
Yeah, actually, it gave me 3 times.
3 Benzes?
Three
Yeah.
Benzes? Yeah.
Did he talk to you when you were trying to retire too?
Yeah, he did.
He just bought you another Benz and said, "I'll buy you a Benz when you retire."
Yeah, when I see the Benz become a healthy man.
As Ramzan's favorite fighter, Khamzat hangs out with his family and trains with his sons, and Kadyrov regularly showers him with luxurious gifts. Chimaev says he helped him a lot and is grateful to him, but all this came at a high price, not being able to get a visa and fight in the US.
Hey, this is Chechen. Shut it up, guys.
Uncle Chael is right. How do you give title shot to someone limited by location, weight, sickness, and well, everything else? On top of the issues we brought up about scheduling Chimaev's fights, this doesn't make things easier. But that's Dana White's problem. And knowing him, he'll surely find a way. Just like he always finds a way to deal with questions about fighters' pay. These are the questions that make White infuriated, and his head turns extra purple. And truth be told, we love seeing him that way. We have left the issue of fighters paying for last because it is impossible to place it chronologically. It's just something like John Jones' problems. That is, it happens year after year.
There has been a lot of talk on fighter pay lately, right? And the number that gets thrown out is 16 to 18% of revenue around there.
Is that right?
Is that accurate?
None of your business. It's none of your business how much it is. If you don't like how we run our business, go start your own.
The president has long been the target of controversy because of the amount he pays fighters.
They have room to pay more. They have room to pay more. They pay you whatever they want to pay you. They let you pretend that you're negotiating while you're not negotiating.
He got trashed by fans, journalists, and even his own fighters. None of this would be so terrible if they didn't take away the right of fighters to have their own sponsors like they used to. But Dana White's policy is,
You always have to have something to bitch about, and fighters always want to make more money. Boxing has absolutely been destroyed because of money and all the things that go on. It's never going to happen while I'm here. Believe me, these guys get paid what they're supposed to get paid. They eat what they kill. They get a percentage of the pay-per-view buys, and the money is spread out amongst all the fighters.
Let's be real. There is little chance that anything will change. And knowing the president, he doesn't give a duck about the controversy surrounding this topic. In the words of John Jones, Dana White is a pretty hard person to argue with. Fortunately for White, there are always famous fighters who make good money and are ready to defend his ideals. And somewhere in the middle of all those controversies, there's one name that deserves its own chapter. The biggest star the sport has ever produced, and the biggest collection of scandals attached to a single fighter. After winning the double championship in Cage Warriors, and becoming the biggest MMA superstar in just a few years, he became the creator of his own destruction.
Partying is weakness for the soul, my friend, so I try and avoid it.
A series of unpleasant events in McGregor's life drastically reduced the number of his fans who became his haters. And this is the story of the chronological events that led to all that.
Sorry I'm late, I just don't give a fuck!
Everything was going well until 2016, when Conor won the UFC lightweight belt. He first drew the ire of fans when he refused to defend his featherweight title, but they quickly got over it when they heard about his mission to become a double champion. When Notorious succeeded, no one thought things would go downhill in his MMA career and life. He refused to defend his belts, which many thought was obligatory if you wanted to be remembered as a true champion.
If you don't hold that belt for a certain amount of time, you gotta let it go, son.
Instead of being more active as a champion and continuing to impress us, McGregor decided to be inactive for the whole of 2017 and do a crossover boxing match with Floyd Mayweather to prove himself as the best boxer in the world. But the boxing world differs from MMA, so Conor was denied his moment of glory and triumph. He was stopped by one of the best boxers in history, and it later turned out that winning this match was his second priority, and that paycheck was the main motivation for this endeavor. After a fat payday of $130 million, the feeling of power and a full wallet went over the Irishman's head and opened the way for mischiefs that would put him on the front pages of newspapers for years to come. His first misstep was on March 31st, 2017, when he was going over the speed limit in Dublin. When he finally appeared on November 18th, he apologized and pleaded guilty and was fined €400. If you thought he was reflecting on his actions, think again. He wasn't. He arrogantly left the court, got into his car without wearing a seatbelt, and left at the speed of light. He threw out a phrase that was a slap to the face of the justice system.
Come and get me! Come and get me!
11th October 2017. Conor was again caught red-handed and behind the wheel, rolling his Range Rover well over the speed limit in Ireland. He appeared before the court with another apology and received a fine of €1,000, and his driver's license was revoked for 6 months. However, this was not Conor's last driving offense, nor was it the last incident in 2017. But fortunately, this time, he did not endanger the lives of others. On 10th November, his SBG colleague Charlie Ward debuted at Bellator 187. Although he was coming off 2 losses, the Irish fighter knocked out John Redman in the first round and did not hide his happiness. But judging by the situation in the cage, Conor was much happier than his friend. McGregor didn't even bother to hide his excitement. He stormed the cage and jumped on Ward, making referee Mark Goddard's job difficult and selfishly taking the attention away from the winner. Goddard warned him, but Notorious went straight after him. Security intervened, and instead of Charlie walking proudly in front of the cameras, McGregor was in the main frame. His desire to be the main character wherever he goes did him no good, as the future will show. After 2017, we get to April 2018, the moment when Conor attacked the bus with a steel dolly. We won't dwell on the detailed events as they are well known to everyone. We'll summarize them only with Dana's words.
There's a guy named Artem who is Conor's best friend. He's from Russia. Habib is from Russia too. There was some kind of Russian stuff going on between those two, and Habib slapped him. Surrounded him with his friends and slapped him. He picked up the phone and called Conor.
That's embarrassing,
Habib
isn't
slapped me. Conor fueled up the G650 and loaded it up with Irish guys. They flew to New York and attacked the bus that he was on.
Conor was arrested a few days later, charged with assault and criminal mischief, and pleaded guilty. He was released on $50,000 bail and avoided jail time and possible deportation from the US. But he was forced to complete 5 days of community service and an anger management course, which is realistically a small penalty for the damage he did, and a small penalty for a rich man like himself.
Conor's got a lot of things he's got to get through over the next year.
On September 20, at the UFC 229 press conference, the issue between Habib and Conor continued, but still didn't reach its peak. McGregor arrived drunk to do media duties, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. Notorious had 2 tasks, promoting Proper 12 whiskey and crossing the line in trash talk against Habib Nurmagomedov. But unlike all previous trash talk skirmishes fans have enjoyed, this one was not like that. This time, he really overdid it, making the press conferences with all previous opponents look like a joke.
You're a phony, a fake, a little rat, a little weasel. Shut your mouth, mate. You'll be dead and I'll be in a cell. Fuck you.
It's gonna be a long night.
Yes.
He knows
Oh,
this.
Lord, save me that.
He knows this. Sit, I'm gonna explain.
Fake rat.
The more he spoke, the more people switched to the side of Nurmagomedov, who decided to leave his talk for the cage. Even the fight night did not pass normally. Both fighters were fined for the post-fight brawl, and Conor was suspended by the NSAC for 6 months and fined $50,000. Before the year ended, Conor managed to get involved in another police investigation in December, this time for a sexual assault accusation in Ireland that allegedly happened in a hotel. These were no small accusations, and therefore a severe blow to his high profile. Unfortunately, this was not the only indictment of this nature, but this process dragged on until 2024. Conor did not calm down even after this, so he participated in another incident in March 2019, which resulted in another arrest. The report says McGregor was leaving the Fontainebleau, Miami Beach shortly after 5 a.m. Monday, when a 22-year-old man attempted to take a picture of McGregor. Police say McGregor slapped the phone out of the man's hand and then stomped on it several times. Investigators say McGregor then grabbed the phone and left the area. It's not exactly a smart move to shove a camera in an MMA fighter's face and not expect a reaction, but Conor definitely has anger issues. He was charged with strong-armed robbery and criminal mischief. He was kept in custody and released on a $5,000 bond, and later, it was found out that the fan filed a civil lawsuit against him, but it was dropped in April. For most of the problems so far, some justification could be found on shaky legs, but what he did in August 2019 borders on madness. At the Marble Arch pub in Dublin, Conor offered a shot of whiskey to an elderly man, who refused his offer twice and was punched by a quick left in return. McGregor was inactive in UFC fights, but filled that time by fighting in pubs, but without knockout finishes. He used to be Ireland's main star, and by 2019, people were refusing to drink with him. McGregor, accused of assault, was brought to court, where he pleaded guilty again and was fined $1,000. A new sexual assault was reported in October 2019. The woman who reported him says that he abused her in a car in front of a pub in Dublin, which this time put a big question mark on his behavior towards women. With the lack of evidence, Conor denied his wrongdoings. He managed to be calm for a whole year, and then in September 2020, he was arrested on the French island of Corsica for alleged repeated sexual assault and indecent exposure. But 8 months later, the charges were dropped due to lack of evidence. As time passed and problems continued, it was harder and harder to be Conor's fan. This was further compounded by his performance decline in 2021, when he was beaten twice by Dustin Poirier. In the first fight, he was knocked out for the first time in his career, and in the second fight, he suffered a nasty broken leg, after which he never returned to the cage. Another one of his missteps happened after the first fight with Dustin, when Conor publicly promised to pay $500,000 to Poirier's charity, but did not follow through. Instead, he donated to another charity in Lafayette called the Boys and Girls Club of Acadiana, instead of the Good Fight Foundation. McGregor filled the rest of 2021 with more assaults. In September, he attacked the famous rapper Machine Gun Kelly on the red carpet at the 2021 MTV Music Awards in Brooklyn. This was his second incident in Brooklyn after the bus attack.
What happened?
Absolutely nothing. I don't know. I just showed up and I don't know. I don't even know the guy, to be honest with you.
Well, he was right. He just shows up and problems come along with him. Likewise, a month later, he just showed up in a nightclub in Rome, where he broke the nose of Italian DJ Francesco Facchinetti. The Italian had no choice but to file charges and also warned the public about McGregor's instability.
We have to go to the hotel and he said, hey guys, stay here for another 10 minutes. And we say, okay. In that moment, your brain turned off immediately in 1 second. And he punched me in my face. It's like that. Imagine if you are in front of me and you speak with me for 2 hours and chilling and smiling, and I punch you after 2 hours, out of the blue.
That he is irreparable is evidenced by another arrest in Dublin for speeding in March 2022. This resulted in a 2-year road ban and a $5,000 fine. The judge ordered him to be peaceful for the next 2 years due to a 5-month suspended jail sentence to avoid jail time. Again. And what did Conor do? In January 2023, he went to Ibiza to celebrate his birthday, where he attacked a 42-year-old Dublin woman he previously invited to his birthday party. The victim says that his behavior suddenly changed, stating that he was acting like possessed, and that he became verbally abusive before kicking and punching her. The lady jumped off the yacht to save herself, as she feared for her life. Later, she filed a complaint against him. Believe it or not, Conor denied this incident too, and prosecutors ultimately declined to pursue charges against him. He used to fight in all corners of the world, and today, he collects criminal charges all over the world. 6 months later, Conor appeared again as a guest, and of course, at an event that had nothing to do with fighting. The NBA Finals were being held in Miami, Florida, and McGregor decided to use the opportunity to advertise his pain relief spray. We have already seen at the UFC 229 press conference how things go when he promotes his product. His partner in this was the Miami Heat's mascot, Bernie, and the only mistake was that Conor should have explained beforehand what the promo would look like. Consequently, poor Bernie ate 2 heavy lefts like none of Notorious's previous opponents had. The knockout was scripted, but the additional punch was unnecessary.
I spent a lot of time with him after, we hugged it out and everything was great. It was a skit, it was part of the show. It was part of the show.
Performer playing Bernie taken to a local emergency room.
He obviously missed punching people in the cage, which is evident from his relentless posts on social media. There is no fighter he hasn't called out from flyweight to heavyweight. There is no performance that he did not comment on after each event, but it's his way of staying relevant without any activity. But the truth is, this ship has sailed long ago. Well, we can believe he does miss moments of triumph in walking to the cage, but unfortunately, not enough to persuade himself to train, because it's hard to get up for a run when you sleep in silk pajamas. He has retired and returned countless times over the past 5 years. Fans who couldn't wait for his comeback performance lost every ounce of desire to see him compete. They are simply sick and tired of his empty promises and threats. But no one suffered because of his indecisiveness like Michael Chandler, who lost 2 years of his life waiting for him. He couldn't wait for his payday and the fight of his life, training like crazy while Conor was partying and making no effort to hide his alcohol addiction and cocaine issues. So Conor was at the NBA Finals in Miami on June 10th, and already on the 11th, the police received a report for another, you won't believe it, sexual assault. The unnamed woman claims that Conor invited her to the VIP bathroom, where he tried to abuse her, but as she says, she managed to resist and escape. However, no stable evidence was presented, and charges had to be dropped. Let's get something straight about these accusations. Conor may be an addict, an egomaniac, a person with anger issues, a bully, and more, but he's also rich and successful enough to have any woman he wants. This all smells of a shakedown. Everybody knows how many innocent people have been put behind bars because of false allegations of sexual abuse. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty. With that being said, Notorious is back in court again on November 5th, 2024, due to sexual indictments from December 2018 that we already mentioned. The alleged victim, Nikita Hand, is adamant about her lawsuits, and McGregor claims that their relationship was consensual and that everything told was a lie. However, today, this is a hot topic in all the news. The case is under investigation, and it is uncertain how things will unfold. Until that happens, we're just here to speculate and try to bring accurate information. Because, unlike the alleged victims, we don't want to accuse innocent people, even if it's Conor McGregor. But the question still remains, how did we get from this?
If you can see it here and you have the courage enough to speak it, it will happen. So I see these shots, I see these sequences, and I don't shy away from them. A lot of times people believe in certain things, but they keep to themselves. They don't put it out there. You truly believe in it. If you become vocal with it, you are creating that law of attraction and it will become reality. I knew he would overextend and I knew I'd catch him, so.
To this.
How do you think you would beat Ilya Abturo, top Toro? I'd grab him with the scruff of the chest and slap that little nose off him, yeah? Little ding-dong of a thing he is, yeah? I'm fucking Spanish. I'm in Marbella, bro, yeah? I'm in Marbella at the bare knuckle stall and let's see what's what. We'll bounce in the yoke, have a bare knuckle.
There was a time when everything that Conor promised would come true. There was a time when listening to his interviews was therapeutic. He was the epitome of the law of attraction and didn't always have to create chaos to draw attention to himself. Whatever he touched would turn to gold. From 2013 to 2017, there was none like this guy. He inspired so many and became the face of the fight game. Even though today he is his own worst enemy who doesn't really intend to come back, Conor's plan was never to stay in this game for long.
The fight game doesn't last long. Competitive fighting doesn't last long. Learning martial arts and training is for life because that's medication to me. So I will do that forever. But as far as the fight game, I'm in it to get all the money, all the belts, and then I'm gone.
McGregor breaks the rules outside the cage. Plenty of others break them inside it. From steroids to fence grabs, from weight cuts to Vaseline. Cheating in the UFC isn't an exception. It's a tradition. Medical examinations, weight checks, drug testing, and hand wrapping checks are just a small part of the tests that MMA fighters have the opportunity to cheat. So, MMA has a long history of some fighters finding a way to gain an unfair advantage over their opponent. And it all started with the Pride era when there were no doping tests. Some fighters didn't hesitate to use it, because why go into the ring as a normal person if you can become a monster who squeezes out juices? The rules don't have to be followed if there's no supervision, right?
Sheriff doesn't care about any problems. It's been like this. If you guys don't catch him, okay.
Accordingly, in 2015, the UFC introduced the USADA as the first anti-doping program for an MMA sport. The reason for this is the critical period from 1997 to 2007 in the UFC, which had 8 positive tests. Pride had 0 positive tests at that time, but that's because fighters were only tested for recreational drugs like cocaine and weed. In that critical period, many famous UFC fighters injected themselves with all kinds of stuff. Of course, not all drugs were to make them physically stronger. Many used drugs that would help them recover faster after training. But USADA doesn't care about that. With their arrival, the percentage of steroid users decreased, but it is still not at 0.
The steroids, comma?
Everybody's on steroids. The whole UFC, everybody.
The use of steroids can throw shade on the fighter's reputation, but what is the worst that can happen when a steroid user enters the cage is best told by a case from 2013. That year, Michael Bisping and Vitor Belfort clashed in a middleweight bout, where the Brazilian entered enhanced to the gills. The count was knocked out in the second round by a brutal high kick, but the knockout was not the worst thing that happened to him.
But you talked about TRT Belfort. When he was on TRT, he was a different kind of human being.
Fought him on TRT.
You fought him when he was at the Super Vitor.
Fought a guy on steroids.
Vitor Belfort kicked me in the head. A few months later, whenever I was in a restaurant, because you know restaurants are always dark, I'd be like wiggling my fingers and I couldn't see them.
Mike got his retina detached, and the injury led to significant vision loss in Bisping's right eye, eventually rendering him functionally blind despite multiple surgeries. Things got bad when it was later announced that Vitor received a therapy use exemption, or TUE, for testosterone replacement therapy, or TRT, making him legal to use it. This is just one of the brutal results of why nobody likes steroid cheats. There is another problem which can be called legal and sanctioned cheating. In 1997, the UFC took a step forward and added weight classes due to the huge difference in weight between the fighters. As time went by, they created other divisions, and today we have 9 of them. This was a revolutionary move that enabled growth in competition, giving a chance to all weights. But was it?
Za mene recimo najveća prema bočkom sportu je to varanje na vagi. Čovjek ima, ne znam, kad ja 100 kila i 60. Ja znam, ja imam 100 kila pa se boli na 60. On skine, on zadovolji vagu, ali vaga ne bi smjela biti dan prije. Nego kontrola vaga, pola sata vremena, ili pola sata bez kontrola vaga, 0 kila tolerancija. Kako bi se promijenila struktura?
Fighters lose an abnormal amount of weight to meet the scale, but then they rehydrate and regain up to 20% of their weight in less than 24 hours. However, not all fighters have the same capacity to hydrate to regain weight, and their opponents come into the fight with a significant physical advantage, earning the title of weight bullies. Paulo Costa, for example, cuts an incredible 35 pounds to get down to the 185 division, and then returns to 213.8 pounds in the fight with Yoel Romero, which is over the weight limit even for light heavyweight. Alex Pereira is another grotesque being walking at 232 pounds who can fight at heavyweight, but is shedding 25 pounds for light heavyweight. The impressive fact is that he cut an incredible 45 pounds for the middleweight division. If you think that's a lot, remember that 24 hours after the weigh-in, he gained back 25 pounds in his fight against Israel Adesanya.
I don't get how because on the scale he doesn't look super sucked in, like doesn't look like he just got done cutting 20 pounds, but that motherfucker is so massive. He made Izzy look small, and I've been around Izzy. Izzy's a big guy.
Rigorous weight cutting affects the health of the fighters, as you know. Many fights were canceled due to these issues because the fighters pushed themselves to the limit. Unfortunately, we have cases where fighters died while cutting. Yang Jianbing, a Chinese flyweight from the One Championship, died in 2015 after suffering complications following a weight cut. Apart from dying during weight cuts, some fighters know how to steal a few pounds at the weigh-in with a trick called towel gate. The naked fighter stands on the scales, and the towel that protects his private parts is also used as a support. Of course, by doing this, you can remove quite a bit, but it still works. Several fighters have done this, only a few admitted it though. And we know who you thought of first.
I will not. Using a towel to make weight is okay.
We got you back, DC. You are right. Using a towel is not cheating, but only if they're on you while you're laying down and sweating to lose weight. Now that we've gone through some ways to cheat outside the cage, let's focus on those inside of it. The fence of the cage, for example, is there to limit the fighting area and enable cage wrestling, not to help fighters stand up and not be taken down. Imagine that you are an MMA fighter whose base is wrestling, and you are fighting a dangerous striker. You finally manage to close the distance, work your moves, and lock in to take him down. You put all your power in the takedown, and whoop! You can't move him. The man grabbed the fence, and you just lost your energy for nothing. This illegal action can get a point deduction, but most fighters just get away with a verbal warning. Leon Edwards is a guy who will grab the fence when you try to take him down and then will knock you out. That's exactly what he did in the fight against Kamaru Usman. Okay, maybe Usman isn't the best example,
because he used this to keep his opponent pressed against the fence. He has done this at least 5 to 6 times so far, especially in his Ultimate Fighter days.
Tomorrow, grabbing the cage when he's about to get taken down.
I grabbed the cage.
Yeah.
And I grabbed the cage. I was taking him down.
Fence grabbing dates back to 2002. If you're an old school UFC fan, then you remember when Carlos Newton locked a triangle on Matt Hughes and grabbed the top of the cage. Then you should also remember how that submission worked out for him. There are many different ways to use the fence legally and effectively. Ask former champion Anthony Pettis, he knows what's up. A small trick in the cage can turn the fight around, infuriate the opponent, but also destroy his career. Tim Kennedy, for example, experienced an injustice in his fight against Yoel Romero in 2014 that changed his life and forever disgusted him with professional competition. The Green Beret of the UFC was supposed to be a challenger for the title, but after the dirty games of his battered opponent, Kennedy decided he had enough of cage fighting.
His corner's in there, they're fixing his face. The bell sounds. And I take a couple of steps forward and John McCarthy grabs me. He's like, "No, Tim, go back to your corner." So the Athletic Commission rules are very matter of fact. You have 10 seconds to answer the bell. If you don't answer the bell, it's disqualification. They call it Stoolgate. There is a calamity of errors that John messed up big time. He got played by his corner. The corner spilled some ice. They put on too much Vaseline. They're pretending like they couldn't speak English. There's confusion about like when he had to get off the stool. Ultimately, they were able to buy him an extra 40-something seconds. A huge adrenaline dump, and I get knocked out a few seconds later.
Of all the scams Tim mentioned in this unfortunate situation, he also mentioned putting on too much Vaseline, marking our next bullet point. It's called greasing, and it was done by George St. Pierre's corner when the champ fought BJ Penn in 2009, and it was a black stain in MMA history. The cornerman for St. Pierre was spotted putting Vaseline on his face in between rounds, which was legal at the time. The NSAC and Dana White, however, had a different perspective. They watched as GSP's cornerman doused his shoulders and back with Vaseline. This was and still is entirely unlawful. BJ Penn's limbs were sliding down GSP's body for the rest of the fight. George was like a human soap in the fight. After GSP's victory, the other fighters spoke out, and The Rush found himself at the center of criticism, including Jason Mayhem Miller, Matt Hughes, and Sean Shirk, claiming they felt slippery and greasy after their encounter with the welterweight champ.
It is a problem.
Yeah.
And what it does is, if you want the sport to be more offensive, the more grease, the less offensive on the ground. That's why people want stand-ups, because in the third round, it's just a grease fest. They put Vaseline all over their faces. That gets all over the body. They're super greasy, hard to submit when it's super greasy. It's illegal to grease, but no one's checking. There's no test.
When the opponent is oiled up and you can't grab him properly, there are always his gloves for pulling. Well, you can do that, but that is another way of cheating in the cage, and you will probably get penalized for it unless you are Conor McGregor, of course.
He's putting his fingers in my glove and pulling me down to throw the up kicks. I was trying to let Herb know that. This guy's a dirtbag, man.
A fighter may hold on to or grab their opponent's hand as long as they are not controlling it by using the material of the glove, but by actually gripping the opponent's hand. The same goes for the legs. You can grab the thighs and push the opponent's hips away, but you cannot hold shorts. Anderson Silva, as a dominant champion, should have known the rules when he tried to rip Chael Sonnen's panties during their second fight in 2012. The reason for this dirty move is probably the trauma from the first bout, where Sonnen spent most of the fight on top of Anderson. There was no way that Spider would go through it again, and even more was not penalized for his fingers being in Chael's fight shorts. But that's how it is with fingers in a fight. There is no place where they don't go astray. They mostly end up in the eyes of the fighters, and it often happens by accident, as happened to Bilal Muhammad in the fight against Leon Edwards. Eye pokes can be a fight ending, and the consequences can be dangerous for the fighter's vision. However, not everyone's fingers accidentally end up in someone else's eyes. Yes, we are talking about Jon Jones. If he didn't poke a fighter in the eye during a 25-minute fight, the question is whether he fought at all. It's a coincidence once, but a compilation of his pokes can be made. There is no doubt that Jones uses this tactic as a dirty advantage to keep his opponents at bay.
Doing anything good on him, and he's gonna put his fingers in you. He's gonna poke you in the eye.
Not all the bells are on Jones, because Chris Weidman can be called the first fighter who achieved a TKO victory via eye pokes, and multiple eye pokes at that. He achieved this thanks to the referee, who saw nothing as if he was the one who was poked in the eyes before the fight. Eye pokes in striking, as we said, can be accidental, but on the ground, very rarely. In 2021, Jillian Robertson had Priscilla Cachoeira in a rear naked choke at the end of the first round. The Brazilian fighter may not have practiced getting out of this submission, but her fingers found a way to penetrate Robertson's skull. Regardless, Jillian got the submission win. Along with this dirty move, Priscilla also missed the scale the day before. Although she had a weight advantage and eye pokes, it did not save her from defeat. Another important fact for today's story is cheaters don't always win. Fish hooking is another malicious way to cheat using fingers, and just like glove pulling, it was Dustin Poirier who had to experience it.
He stuck his fingers in my mouth to lift my neck to get rid of the choke right here.
Do I think I need to apologize? I don't think I do.
Poor Dustin Poirier really has bad luck with other people's fingers, but just like against McGregor, he overcame it and won spectacularly. Some fighters tend to fake fouls to get the DQ win or steal a few seconds to tire themselves out. And here we are again with Kamaru Usman doing it twice against Colby Covington and Leon Edwards.
Wait till the next time I see you. There ain't gonna be no cheap shots. You're not gonna be able to call fake nut shots. You're not gonna call fake eye pokes and get 10 minutes of timeout.
Usman's cardio is impressive. Every time he gets tired, he finds a way to take a break without a point deduction. We will wrap it up with Diego Sanchez, who stole the win by DQ against Michel Pereira in 2020. After the Brazilian fed him with beatings for 3 rounds, one of his knees went astray into the already damaged head of Sanchez, who was grounded according to the rules of the fight. The old and experienced veteran saw his chance to win, and when the referee asked him, he didn't think for a second. I mean, come on. He went through absolute wars in his days, and one knee to the head ruled him illegitimate to continue the match.
Fighters cheat in the cage. Journalists try their luck outside of it. And what happens when someone with a microphone asks a stupid question to a man who punches people for a living is almost always worth watching.
What can happen if you ask a stupid question to an MMA fighter?
You.
Could he be offended?
You need to take notes, bro. Yo, bro, I'm
Or ask a question in response?
Let me ask you something. Are you gay?
Or even worse, these are the moments when MMA fighters check stupid interviewers. Let's kick it off with journalist Jose Youngs and your favorite African fighter, Mike Perry. Jose got some time to interview Mike ahead of his fight with Donald Cerrone. Unfortunately for him, he did not use that time well. The question that followed had nothing to do with Mike's future opponent.
You and Luis Pena, best friends?
Although Mike was confused at first, he quickly came up with his answer, and we can't help but to think he had much worse words to say to him. But Perry, being Perry, retaliated with a counter and decided to be, well, friendly.
Keep seeing you on your vlog, you guys hanging out all the time.
It's not my vlog. He's here for the fight. He's a good guy. Why you gotta be gay with it? We best friends. Are these people your best friends? You're standing pretty close to them, sir. Your hair's pretty fucking friendly. Motherfucker. Any other fucking questions?
Good, Mike.
The African fighter doesn't play games, and this interview gives us Ariel Helwani versus Rampage Jackson vibes. Speaking of Ariel, if anyone pissed off other fighters in interviews, it's him. The man got fired from the UFC and even managed to be on the wrong foot with Khabib Nurmagomedov, who blocked him on Twitter. Ariel was vocal about Alvarez versus McGregor promoting the fight without ever mentioning Khabib in the title picture.
When UFC sent me 2 contracts, right?
Yeah.
Why you not say nothing about this?
I believe that I did.
But
I believe that I've talked about
okay,
maybe not in a tweet that you could see, but if you watch all the content.
The Eagle wasn't as cruel as Rampage, but he let Helwani know that he wasn't a fan of his journalistic games. He felt betrayed and insulted. Ariel, on the other hand, shifted the blame to the UFC, claiming that Khabib was just a pawn in their game to pressure Alvarez into fighting McGregor. Helwani claimed that he had his back all the time, but Khabib wanted proof and gave him a free loyalty lesson.
Healthy? You know, stay with me honest. Why? If you know UFC used by name, why you don't say nothing?
I did.
Oh, when?
I did.
Show me.
Ask your management team.
No, show me.
What do you mean show you?
Why you talk with me like friend? For me, is loyal is number one. If you don't know what is this loyal, you have to go Google Translate. Conor champion, you with Conor. Alvarez champion, you with Alvarez. I feel you're not loyal. That's why I block you.
The 7.5-minute interview was persuasive from both sides. Khabib was the right one, but Ariel never intended to admit his mistake, so he didn't want to start now. Towards the end of the interview, Nurmagomedov completely surrendered to the relentless persuasion of the press and issued one of the most polite threats ever.
Are you going to fight the winner of Conor Eddie? Are you going to fight the winner?
I want to fight with you.
Ah, come on.
Ariel is that guy who will hit you from behind with the rock, and when you turn around, he will point his fingers at someone else. He should have been thankful that Khabib is a well-bred guy with manners who avoids bad words. Otherwise, he could have fared much worse. However, the same cannot be said for Nick Diaz, who did not hold back for a second. The gangster from Stockton is not used to having a false personality and will hardly answer a question dishonestly. But Ariel Helwani deserves exactly these kinds of interviews. And let us tell you, his kindness does not give him the answers he would like because fighters see right through him. It took Nick only 4 seconds to share his opinion.
Nick, good to see you again. A lot of people are very excited for this fight. How are you feeling in the days leading up to it?
I'm all right. You know, I wasn't going to do this interview, but they told me I had to. I feel good. I'm ready to fight. I don't have much to say, you know.
Something against me? Do you not like me, Nick?
I feel like you instigate fights quite a bit. That's your job, but where I come from, you know, people like that get slapped.
Although he didn't slap him, Nick was right. People like this really get slapped in their hometowns. It was his younger brother Nate who showed us how they do it in Stockton. When he met with a reporter who made disrespectful memes about Nate's friend, the younger Diaz didn't waste time. At the very start, he whispered, "You gotta watch your tweets about my dude who was fighting recently." He slapped the microphone and then the reporter's cap. It was a great balance between disrespect and not getting sued for an assault. Well, in a world of internet tough guys, it's good to have a few out there keeping guys accountable for their actions. The reporter laughed, but in his eyes, you could see that he wanted to disappear. Conor McGregor has seen his fair share of battles, in the cage and on the microphone, with fighters, reporters, and well, everybody else. His comedic timing and eloquence are the perfect combination to bring down anyone who asks him something absurd. In the media preparations for the featherweight title fight, no one suffered more mental damage than poor Jose Aldo, who didn't know a word of English. That didn't stop Conor from bombarding him with insults in every interview though. However, Jose was not the only target of McGregor's trash talk. There were also reporters who dared to ask stupid questions.
So what is it that he did that disrespected you that got you to dislike him?
This is not a therapy session.
Well, no, but you accused him of starting this, right?
I said what I said.
Short and clear, classic notorious answer. But this was not the stupidest thing that came out of the journalist's mouth. Cotton, an Australia-based TMZ reporter, asked him how a fight in the octagon between him and Jesus Christ would take place. Conor decided to play his game and keep his answer funny, even though many people marked this as insulting.
You versus Jesus in the octagon, how would he fare?
Well, there's not a man alive that can beat me. But Jesus ain't alive, is he? So I don't know. Maybe he could come back from the dead. I don't know. I'd still whoop his ass.
As there are worse things to come, the same reporter returned when McGregor was doing media duties ahead of the Diaz fight. On one occasion, he called Nate a cholo gangster from the hood, which was enough for a journalist to take advantage of the situation and ask a racially motivated question. No journalist would not get the worst out of a controversial situation. They feed off it. However, McGregor, aware of the backlash due to the Jesus question, was not so polite and playful with his answer this time.
You called him a cholo in there. That's kind of racially motivated. Did you mean to say it like that?
Mate, shut the f*** up and get away from me. You're remember that Jesus shit you brought up?
Yeah.
It's such a stupid question, man.
If you pay attention to the TMZ reporter's tone of voice when Conor asked him if he remembered the Jesus question,
Jesus shit you brought up?
Yeah.
It says a lot. He was genuinely happy about it, proving they have no shame. Now we return to Khabib Nurmagomedov, who also showed how he can be strict with his answer and put the reporter in his place. I guess he learned from the previous interview with Ariel Helwani that talking too much with journalists doesn't solve anything. It's a bottomless pit, and keeping it short and simple is a way to go against these kinds of vultures.
We saw how Tony acted at the press conference yesterday. There's some people that are saying maybe he's doing this to promote, but other people are saying maybe he has some mental problems and there's something wrong with him. May I ask, which do you think it is?
Honestly, it's like nothing personal here. I don't want to talk about his problem, like family stuff, mental stuff, like this is his problem, leave him alone, I don't want to talk about his problem, because like everybody sit here, everybody have problem, it's like nobody's safe, If he need help, we have to help him.
Every time a journalist says, there are some people that say, it mostly means that he is those people. Notice how everyone else on the stage smiled when this private question was asked about a man who wasn't even present. Still, you don't have to be a jerk. You just have to choose your words carefully, because anything you say can be taken out of context and used against you. There are two different ways to answer the question about Tony's health. The first and kind way was shown by Nurmagomedov, and the second was demonstrated by Tony himself.
You seem to be in really great spirits. I commend you for going headfirst into some mental health issues and working through that. It takes a lot of courage as a professional athlete, especially. A lot of people look up to you. You. I was giving you props. I was just wondering.
Advice. Next question.
I wasn't giving you advice, sir. Sorry. Okay.
The same journalist later revealed that he had served in Iraq and that he understood mental struggles, but Tony did not immediately recognize this as a good intention. He reacted offensively because he knows how media issues work. This journalist was really an exception, but Ferguson, guided by his previous experience with the press, reacted in his own way. Due to frequent and bad journalism, even these positive ones receive negative feedback from fighters. Well, Tony's mental health was mostly bothering everyone else but him. Speaking of mentally unstable persons, let's move on to our favorite functional sociopath, Sean Strickland, and his way of handling reporters. He is actually the man asking the questions, not the reporters. No community is safe, and neither is a political organization, a promotional product, or any kind of governing system. Sean wakes up in the morning and decides to speak facts without a filter. It was enough for the reporter to say he was Canadian, and Sean went on a rampage. As time went on, Strickland got worse and worse. All you gotta do is sit back and enjoy the Tarzan show.
You're in Toronto. Welcome. Glad to hear it. It's been great.
Are you Canadian?
Of course I am.
Are you part of the fucking opposition? Are you?
I don't know how to phrase that.
You got like, yeah.
Well, I did want to ask you.
Did you vote for Trudeau?
I'm not gonna say.
And let me tell you something right now. The man says he's not gonna say. Like, if you ask him, motherfucker, did you vote for Biden? He's like, well, I'm not gonna say. That's none of your business. He voted for fucking Biden.
Sean,
so hey,
Sean, I'm glad you've had great experiences.
So this is what I'm talking about, you guys. The enemy of Canada.
We've got a pretty supportive gay and lesbian community in this city. I did want to ask you about something you wrote a couple of years ago. You said if I had a gay son, I would think I'd.
Oh, look, another. I'm saying to you, the swamp, you guys, the swamp.
You become a champion, you become a star, and someone.
Let me ask you something. Are you gay? Are you? Let me know. Are you gay?
Can I get an answer?
Well, no, I'm asking. This is probably. Are you a gay man?
I'm an ally of the community.
Okay. If you had a son and he was like, he had a son, he was gay, you'd be like, oh man, you don't want a grandkid?
No problem with it.
Oh man, well, dude, you're a weak fucking man, dude. You're part of the fucking problem. You elected Justin Trudeau, when he sees the bank accounts, you're just fucking pathetic. The fact that you have no fucking backbone and has he shut down your fucking country and seized bank accounts, you ask him some stupid like that, go fuck yourself. Move the fuck on, man.
I feel like that really answered the question, but I did want to ask also things you said about the trans community. You said this past October when they announced the Bud Light sponsorship that you'd go so hard on Bud Light in your next fight, they'll have to accept me or denounce me when they know what, and will know what they stand for. Are you still going to use your fight time to kind of speak on that?
Here's the thing about Bud Light. 10 years ago, to be trans was a mental fucking illness. And now all of a sudden, people like you have fucking weaseled your way into the world. You are an infection. You are the definition of weakness. Everything that is wrong with the world is because of fucking you. And the best thing is the world's not buying it. The world's not buying your fucking bullshit you're fucking peddling. The world is not saying, you know what? You're right. Fucking chicks have dicks. The world's not saying that. The world's saying, no, there are two genders. I don't want my kids being taught about, who they could fuck in school. I don't want my kids being taught about, their sexual preference. Dude, this guy is the fucking enemy. You want to look at the fucking enemy to our world? It's that motherfucker right there. asking these stupid fucking questions. Sorry, I told the UFC guys to be nicer. Lance, am I still doing this? Did I cross any lines? A little. What the fuck? I didn't say the F word. You just brought this fucking guy in here to piss me off.
It is clear that people are getting more sensitive by the day, and that everything under the blue sky is somehow offensive. But when did they go so soft when it comes to cage fighting? We are literally talking about two men who agreed to harm each other and spent a good part of their lives doing it for their fame and our entertainment. Accordingly, if you ever feel stupid, remember that a reporter asked Jorge Masvidal about unnecessary punches in his fight against Ben Askren. Yes, he asked that question to the thoroughbred killer and MMA veteran with over 50 fights. To a man who has been listening to Ben's trash talk for months, the least he could do is give him a few extra punches. He was quick with his knockout, but even quicker with his golden response to the reporter. We will give you a heads up. This one also opened the question with, "People said," and we explained what that means.
I saw some criticism. People say the punches weren't really necessary. Maybe
they were super necessary.
Why were they necessary?
What do you mean, why were they not necessary?
Because he was already knocked out at that point.
But the referee hadn't pulled me off. And my job is to hit somebody till the referee pulls me off. So to those people, I would say maybe don't watch him and maybe go back to soccer.
I saw some other criticisms perhaps of your celebration afterwards. Any regrets at the celebration or your behavior in the cage afterwards?
Man, there's not too many people that I've disliked. I have over 50 pro fights, and he's one of them, you know. He talked about my manhood, talked about my culture, my ethnicity. Where do we draw? Why do certain people get to do stuff you online so you could do anything? Everything is cool before a fight. You're allowed to do and say whatever you want, but after a fight, I'm not allowed to showboat and rub it in your face so you and guys like you could see it and be like, maybe I don't talk so much shit, because when I cross one of these real motherfuckers, they're gonna make me pay for it, man. They're gonna embarrass the shit out of me. And it's not over for Ben either. He still has to deal with me. If I see him at Whole Foods, I'm gonna still slap that dude up because I don't like him.
Safe to say that the reporter deserved a few super necessary shots. This was not the first time Jorge was the target of stupid questions. A similar thing happened at the press conference for UFC 287. The difference is, this time, Dana White, Kevin Holland, Santiago Ponzinibbio, and Jorge Masvidal were the targets of journalistic stupidity. Yes, this was a group assassination attempt. As Sean Strickland said earlier,
in a swamp, you guys, a swamp.
The first question had nothing to do with the event, and all subsequent ones were instigating fights between fighters who weren't even fighting each other. Dana never refused free promotion and hyping fights, but this time, he decided to draw the line, and his employees did the same.
And just lastly for me, Dana, I just want to ask you quickly, it's the first time we've seen you since the massive merger news with WWE. I'm just curious, your thoughts on that massive deal, and I guess, fans are trying to figure out what it means to them. How will it impact the UFC and the fans?
I'd rather not talk about that right now. We could talk about that another time, but yeah, obviously it's exciting for the company and everything else, but this is about these guys right now, not that.
I have one more question for Jorge. Jorge, yesterday at the hotel, there appeared to be a run-in between yourself and Kevin Holland. I was curious, what was that about?
Absolutely nothing. There's nothing to talk about there. It's just some riding, cloud chasing, so ain't nothing to talk about.
Nah, that's not what you were saying yesterday, bro. Watch your mouth.
Kevin, I'm curious, what is the issue there?
I called him baby
what's
girl
the
and he got
question?
mad.
Guys, come on, these two aren't even fighting. Knock it off.
All right, okay.
Do you have a question about the fight, who these guys are fighting, or you just want to start shitting here? What's your question?
Cool. And if Dana will let me, I was gonna ask if we can get a little bit of.
Don't even ask, bro. Don't even ask. Don't get me in trouble.
You got it, man. Good luck on Saturday. And I'll ask you, given what we know about what happened yesterday, do you think that Kevin's focus isn't entirely on you? And do you think that if he's looking past you, it'll really...
Don't even answer that question.
No worries.
A question for the Trailblazer, Kevin Holland. WWE, UFC merger, one umbrella. Past or present, professional wrestling. If you could take one person with the steel chair to the skull, who would it be? Or UFC fighter, wrestling ring.
No comment. I'm trying not to get in trouble.
Any other stupid questions?
Fighters can brush off reporters all day. But there's one man in the UFC nobody brushes off, because he is the UFC. And his own list of controversies is long enough to stand next to any fighter on this video. With 30 years in the UFC business, Dana White made maximum effort to regulate the rules, make a martial arts spectacle, and bring it closer to people as a real sport. However, being a successful businessman and multimillionaire who has been in controversial situations for years means his actions won't always delight the community.
And this leads to stories like these. We start with the UFC Reebok deal, which was a hard pill to swallow for the fighters and therefore the fans. Their 6-year partnership was officially announced in 2015. This act eliminated any sponsors UFC fighters had and limited them to Reebok only. It was obvious that the UFC would be the only one to benefit from this move. Or if you ask Dana, they won't be making any money from it.
UFC won't make a dime off this. Not one penny.
Yeah, right. As if he would contract something that would not benefit the company. This gave the promotion a more professional look, but on the other hand, it gave them more control over the livelihood of its fighters and took the food off their tables. For years, White was crucified and abused by questions from fans. When will the fighters be able to have their sponsors back? The fighters immediately expressed their displeasure on social networks, but of course, that didn't change anything because Dana is quite greedy and stubborn about his views.
Cocaine isn't cheap. It's expensive. Gotta make money.
Donald Cerrone, for example, reported that he would lose $60,000 per fight in income because of this. So, the UFC will not earn anything, but this deal will cost the fighters thousands. Sounds like logic has left the conversation. However, Dana was not always logical about his decisions. In 2019, he introduced the BMF belt for the fight between Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal. At first, this seemed like a fun idea, but on closer inspection, not really. Traditional championship titles were a dream come true only for the best fighters in the world in their respective divisions. Consequently, this belt only turned out to be a gimmick. Only big names get a chance for the belt. Those with back-to-back losses against top fighters and those who could not reach the real championship. Given the name of this belt, it's ironic that it's actually a consolation prize. It turns promotion into showbiz and takes away meaningful competition. Regardless, Dana is quite excited about promoting his weirdest UFC title. Speaking of Dana's tendency to promote weird and controversial products, Mr. White was inspired by the Russians' Power Slap League, so he decided to introduce his own in 2022.
Power slap. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it.
He says that in 17 months, this product has received as many as 7 billion views. This is not surprising because we live in a time where all sorts of nonsense gets an abnormal number of views. The irony is that, for years, White tried to turn cage fighting into a noble sport, convincing people that it is not what it seems. Then, 3 decades later, he introduces a league where people slap each other to the point of unconsciousness and says that it will be bigger than the UFC. Dr. Gregory Oshanik, medical director of the Brain Injury Association of America, gave a great explanation. A sport is a contest of athleticism or skill. This is merely your physiological ability to withstand blunt force trauma to the head. It's like seeing how many times somebody can run into a brick wall. It's funny how not all UFC fighters had the courage to express their discontent about this, sport. And considering that Dana rules them with an iron fist, it's hard to figure out who actually likes it and who doesn't.
What do you think of Power Slap?
I think it's amazing, man. What Hunter Campbell and Dana White have done with Power Slap is one of the most amazing spectacles I've ever seen.
What do you think of Power Slap?
I don't like it.
Okay. What do you think of Power Slap?
It's fun. It's fun to watch. It's good to watch on if nothing else to watch.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
What do you think of Power Slap?
I think it's ridiculous. If you really want to give yourself brain damage, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you.
But this noble and highly intelligent sport is not the only strange thing from 2022. The UFC imposed a flag ban due to the war between Russia and Ukraine. True, the ban was lifted in 2023, but why set it in the first place? This did not sit well with the fighters, and when the fighters are not happy, neither are the fans. Fans think that bringing in flags adds an emotional layer to the fights and gives the fighters pride points. After all, it is a way for promotion to go worldwide. There is no doubt that White was forced from above to accept this ban, but given that he is difficult to manipulate, it was rather weird. Well, good thing he changed his mind. Surely he would bring back a lot of fans if he brought back the old UFC gloves. In 2024, he introduced new gloves to neutralize eye pokes. Many expressed dissatisfaction, especially when Trevor Whitman proposed his own model that even Rogan said was better than the UFC's. The coach had a great idea, but he couldn't agree with the UFC. Yeah, what a wonder. Trevor wasn't happy with the negotiations with the promotion, so they parted ways. The UFC wanted to own the patent, and he rightly didn't want to give it up. You know Dana, he only wants things over which he will have 100% control.
However, even if we turn a blind eye to the dissatisfaction with the gloves that Dana ignored, he gladly accepted that they would return at UFC 309. Why? Because people complained. And those people are Jon Jones. He literally brought back the gloves at the event, where he returned the biggest eye poker in the fight business. Jon Jones noted that he found them uncomfortable, stating they felt restrictive and did not conform well to his hand shape. He mentioned feeling stressed about using them during fight week due to their awkward fit. After UFC 309, Dana returned them again for the next event. However, White bending to Jon's will is nothing new, and fans being infuriated because of it is the least of his concerns.
Jon Jones has never lost. It's just a whole nother level. Jon Jones is the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world and the greatest fighter ever. And listen to me, I'm not defending Jon Jones.
We've spent the entire year of 2024 listening to Dana White glazing over Jon Jones. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but anyone who says they didn't go crazy by hearing Jon Jones is the pound-for-pound #1 every day
It's Jon Jones. Jon Jones. Jon Jones. Or Jon Jones.
isn't being honest with themselves. The man waged wars against reporters who dared to stand up to him. Dana, we get it, you love him, but stop putting him where he doesn't belong.
Holy shit. And he's the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world. Wow.
The pound-for-pound fighter debate has nothing to do with a GOAT conversation. Pound-for-pound rankings compare fighters regardless of their weight class. The list is based on overall skills and recent accomplishments, quality of opponents, activity, and dominance. Subjective factors such as money-making ability and popularity are more or less included. Whatever we think of Jon Jones, he's the best of all time, period. But putting him at the top of the pound-for-pound rankings while he's resting is absurd, especially when Makhachev, Pereira, and Topuria are finishing opponents and spectacularly defending titles. Okay, so he beat Stipe and climbed to second place. We'll ignore the fact that he's still ahead of Pereira, but after beating a senior citizen, he's still not first, and it makes Dana White mad. Now, he wants a deal with Mark Zuckerberg to have AI create the pound-for-pound rankings in the future. Well, if artificial intelligence is really as intelligent as advertised, it's unlikely that it will put Jon in the first place. While some fighters have Dana White privileges, others are fired for their social media comments. In 2011, Miguel Torres tweeted, "If a van was called a surprise van, more women wouldn't mind going for rides in them." Miguel, who found this funny, came to his senses and changed the post to, "If a windowless van was called a surprise van, more people wouldn't mind going for rides in them. Everyone likes surprises." Unfortunately, he realized too late that this could be offensive, and as a result, he was released from the promotion by the president. We have a million reasons why this would be really offensive, but a man can make a mistake. Turns out Miguel actually shared the quote from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. However, it bothered Dana too much. The question is, what would he do if one of the UFC superstars did the same?
It was just a joke. It's not a funny joke to me. It's just not something you tweet. If that's your sense of humor, keep it at home around you and your buddies and keep it to yourself. It's not something that you put out on Twitter.
In 2015, we had the same problem, but from a different angle. After the victory, Yoel Romero called people to return to Jesus Christ. It was one of the unique post-fight interviews, especially because, at first, we barely understood what he wanted to say. After his appeal to people to return to true values, he received positive feedback and earned many fans. The same cannot be said for Dana White, though, who stated the following.
You just won the biggest fight of your career. America doesn't want to hear your thoughts on Jesus, and keep that stuff at home. Religion, politics, all that stuff. When you're out there fighting and you're being interviewed, they want to hear about the fight. Love Jesus all you want. Just don't have to do it publicly.
Did he just say to leave politics at home? That would make sense if he hadn't been bragging about how he lost a lot of fans because of his friendship with Donald Trump. We all know how much Donald helped him build the UFC, and Dana is infinitely grateful for that. That's one good thing about him. He's a ride-or-die guy for people who did him good in difficult times. True, he lost a lot of fans because he supported Trump, but they're mostly those who aren't on Donald's side. However, the problem here is that Dana contradicts himself for the umpteenth time, which is one of the main reasons why he draws the ire of fans. Fighters are not allowed to express their religious and political affiliations, and then he brags about his. So, let's think back to a few similar situations.
When are we going to see women in the UFC, man?
Never.
Anytime soon? Never?
Never.
Ronda Rousey.
Greatest athlete I've ever worked with.
Wow.
Women's fighting is where it is today because of her. The greatest athlete I've ever worked with. Never.
Wow.
I fucking guarantee you this. You ain't gonna see Jake Paul calling Anderson Silva out. That I fucking promise you.
Anderson Silva and Jake Paul.
I don't care about that. I don't care.
Wow.
Kimbo sucks. Kimbo Slice sucks, like I've said now for the last few months.
What's up, Kimbo? Wow.
The thing that Dana White has been accused of the most, and continues to be, is the way he treats fighters. This includes fighter health concerns and their payment. In August 2023, over 1,200 professional fighters filed a class action lawsuit against the UFC, seeking $1.6 billion. Former employees say the UFC used its market power to acquire or block rival promoters and used exclusive contracts to keep fighters within the UFC. As for health, a U.S. federal review says the UFC might not be meeting all the criteria as far as fighter safety is concerned. They check most of the boxes, yes, but they are missing out in terms of insurance. But luckily for them, there's Dana White, who is working diligently to make the fighters' future brighter.
We're always looking into making things better, safer, and whatever for the fighters. I mean, I don't know about health care forever. I mean, does anybody have a job where they get health care forever when they leave? I mean, that's pretty fucking crazy, but I don't think anybody does it.
It's not really strange that he doesn't take care of some lesser-known fighters. In fact, Dana doesn't care if you are the biggest UFC superstar ever if you don't dance to his music. And no one waged war with him like Francis Ngannou, who was released in 2023. The man who made only $600,000 after defending his heavyweight title in dominant fashion against Cyril Gane. When he sat down with the UFC people to make an agreement, it was clear that a mutually satisfactory agreement would not be reached. The best they could do was give him 3 more big money fights under the pretense that he would become the highest paid heavyweight of all time. But finances were not the problem here. It was Ngannou's desire for freedom. Francis says that according to their contract, he would not be an independent contractor and that with his signature, he would give them all the power, and he has seen firsthand how they function when that power is given to them. Dana said that Francis was asking for the impossible, and those impossible demands included health insurance, a license for sponsorships outside the UFC for everyone, and the ability to box outside the promotion. Ngannou didn't just stand up for himself, but for all the other fighters. He couldn't even dream that after a successful UFC career, he would find himself on the negative side of White and the crossroads with the promotion. Many said that he fumbled the bag, and his pride would be the end of him. But Francis, with a lot of patience, proved the world wrong. He signed a great contract with the PFL, where he earned $2 million in his first fight. In addition, boxing against Tyson Fury, he earned $10 million. Dana White, of course, tried to degrade his achievements and also Francis as a person. President quickly switched his jersey from this.
Francis Ngannou has the world record for the most powerful punch. His punch is the equivalent to 96 horsepower, which is equal to getting hit by a Ford Escort going as fast as it can. Holy shit.
To this.
I didn't like Francis as a person. Wasn't a guy I wanted to do business with. Francis isn't a good guy. He plays the good guy. I don't understand the language, and so he seems like he's a nice guy. He's not. Believe me, I have no sleepless nights over Francis leaving.
But Francis is not the only champion who has gone through this. Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, despite his perfect performances at flyweight, suffered a great injustice. His fault was that he was so dominant that it bordered on boring. That, and the fact that he did not want to accept the ideas that the UFC imposed on him. They wanted him to change and start promoting fights better, but Mighty refused to be a fake character for the sake of promotion. They wanted him to fight TJ Dillashaw, who would skip the line at flyweight, and Demetrius wanted to defend the title against someone who deserved it. That's how a champion should think, right? Of course, there was also a dispute about finances.
Sean Shelby, he called me. He says, "Hey, we want you to fight TJ Dillashaw." I was like, "Okay, pay me $1 million. And we'll make it happen."
You go fight TJ?
Yeah, we'll make it happen. Because I can't give you what you don't bring in. I was like, "Okay, fair enough. Okay, I understand that." And then Matt said, "Okay, well, we'll fight TJ, but here's a stipulation we want. If TJ doesn't make weight, which we knew he could not make 125. If he doesn't make 125, we fight for his belt." They're like, "Oh, no, we can't do that." And I'm like, "I have no leverage here.
Right.
Like, what's
in it?
What's in it for me? Like, same pay, no more money. What's in it for me?" And they're like, "Well, we're just gonna close it." Like, close the motherfucking division.
He's a partner in the pay-per-view. Let's see what your pay-per-view does. You're a partner, and see what you make. Listen, you can't be in a position where you're like, I want $2 million. Fuck you. I don't care what you make.
You don't like the way we pay our fighters? Too fucking bad.
Dana couldn't wait to replace him with a new champion who will work as the promotion says. But that's not all, because the peak of disrespect happened when the UFC contracted the worst transfer in the history of MMA sport in 2018. They replaced Demetrius Johnson with Ben Askren, a man who hated Dana White for years and vice versa. The president literally traded away the best fighter on the roster to bring in a man he doesn't like at all. But the joke is on him, because Demetrius continued to shine even in one championship. When he emotionally said goodbye to sports in 2024, Dana White spoke again and shared another one of his nonsense.
If you go back to when he was here, I was defending him from the fans, you know? So who's defended Demetrius Johnson more than me? Yeah, no, good for him. You know, incredible career he had, and I've never had a problem with Demetrius Johnson.
Let's touch on another incident from 2022, but this one has nothing to do with the UFC. It's more like Dana White's private problem that got leaked and got bad feedback from the public. He and his wife Ann were celebrating New Year's Eve in Mexico, but that celebration quickly turned into a physical confrontation. A few slaps here, a few slaps there, and unfortunately for White, everything was recorded by the camera. Dana has been vocal about violence against women for many years, and ironically, he found himself in just such a situation. People couldn't help but wonder what happens in private if this happens in public. After all, this was one of the rare cases where he admitted a mistake and accepted responsibility for his actions. He knew what would await him the first time he stood in front of the cameras.
On this media day with the athletes, the focus is on them. These guys have trained hard and got ready for this fight. What happened on New Year's Eve is mine, my mistake, not theirs. There's no defense for this, and people should not be defending me over this thing, no matter what. All the criticism that I have received this week is 100% warranted and will receive in the future.
Whatever he did, it would usually cause mixed emotions. Of course, he did many good things that are not mentioned much or often.
I need to thank him because he gave me a home for a year. You know, he gave me money on the side. That secured me being able to have a place to live for the next year.
But he also did a lot of things that weren't to the taste of the MMA community.
For me, the biggest benefit is not having to work for Dana White. That guy's a freaking scumbag.
I don't give a f. Dana builds careers. Dana ends them. But sometimes fighters handle the ending themselves, with one bad decision, one failed test, or one moment they can never take back. How can potentially incredibly successful careers be ruined by jealousy?
But as you know, when it gets out, it will kill me.
Or what can a criminal past lead to when you're already at the top?
Will become Britain's biggest ever robbery.
These are 9 UFC fighters who ruined their careers in the blink of an eye. And first, we're going to talk about Igor Severino. At only 20 years old, he debuted in the UFC. Perfect score, 8 wins, 8 finishes. It's a dream come true for many upcoming fighters, yet he messed it up in the most horrible way possible. Igor was facing another undefeated prospect, Andre Lima, who was also a debutant that night. Although he was losing the fight, Severino made sure to bring his dog out of him, and in the second round, he let him out. Holding his Brazilian compatriot against the cage, Igor bit him on the arm for no good reason, earning himself a one-way ticket outside the promotion. It was the first DQ via biting in UFC history. This is not tolerated in smaller organizations, let alone in the most elite ones. Severino is not even out of adolescence yet, but he is certainly out of the UFC. Illegal moves are just one way to dig your own grave, and Peter Yan knows that firsthand. If you are a fan of the bloodthirsty Siberian tiger, you probably suffered too, during the moment that changed the direction of his successful career. No Mercy arrived in the UFC in 2018 with an 8-1 record and very quickly caused a stir in the bantamweight division. After 6 dominant victories, Peter went all out on Jose Aldo to crown himself with the vacant title. With his mentality and fighting style, it looked like it would be a long reign, but things went sideways on the first title defense. The title challenger, Aljamain Sterling, had a difficult night through 4 rounds. Yan took him down whenever he wanted to, and fed him with some heavy shots. The victory was on the horizon, but 30 seconds before the end of the round, Peter drilled Aljo with a blatantly illegal knee to the head following advice from his corner. For the first time in history, Sterling became the champion via DQ, and Peter went on to lose 4 out of 6 fights, destroying the perfect UFC streak.
Yeah, it sucked. It was a good fight. I mean, that was a fight that everybody was excited about tonight. Everybody knew it was going to be good. And, well, that's a bad one.
True, after the victory against Song Yadong, Yan returned to the winning column, but just one mistake cost him a lot. The question arises, how would the Russian's future have unfolded if he had lasted just 30 more seconds? Compared to the next fighter, Peter Yan's case looks harmless, and that's all because Rousimar Palares loved other people's body parts more than his MMA career. 19 wins and 16 submissions say a lot about his ground game expertise, but the gift that was meant to be a blessing turned out to be a curse. In his fights, the Brazilian spammed wins with leg locks like crazy, but his problem was that when he took a leg, no one could separate him from it. The only reason this went on is that President White let this go a couple of times, but after Taquino tried to take Mike Pierce's leg home to Brazil, Dana decided he had enough.
And this is the second incident we've had with Paul Harris where he had the lock and he didn't let it go. Finally, he let it go, but I'm gonna cut him too.
Rousimar sought his fortune in other promotions, but as karma always does its thing, he lost 7 of his last 10 fights and it was mostly by knockout. Not retiring when the time is right can destroy both career and legacy. One of those fighters is the indestructible Tony Ferguson, with 7 consecutive losses. El Cucuy was the interim champion with a 12-fight winning streak, who sliced and diced through the most dangerous fighters of the lightweight division. 5 times he was paired with Nurmagomedov, but fans never had the honor of watching that fight.
When Tony Ferguson was on this undefeated run, he was one of the baddest fucking men on the planet. The fact that him and Khabib never got to fight is a real fucking tragedy.
Yeah. So that the fans would not be left without entertainment during the pandemic, Ferguson accepted the fight against Justin Gaethje for the second interim belt. Unfortunately, Justin pushed the limits of violence and gave Tony a beating he had never received. That was in addition to 2 weight cuts and not taking a long break to rehabilitate his knee. Of course, El Cucuy came back, but he was never the same. Losing 2 more decisions against the top 5 fighters is not the worst thing, but losing 4 more fights with 3 finishes was putting nails in your own coffin. It has become very difficult to watch, especially for true fans, or anyone sane on this planet.
What do you do with Tony Ferguson moving forward? Because obviously he took a lot of damage in that first round, but then he tried to fight back, and I think that's what 7 losses in a row now.
I would love to see Tony retire.
Nobody can be same long time. No Tony Ferguson, no Khabib, nobody. And one day someone gonna beat you or something gonna happen. You know, Tony Ferguson's time is finished.
The use of illegal substances is a big no-no in the world of MMA, especially if you are an employee of the UFC promotion. Ruslan Magomedov comes in a slightly different edition than the others for fighters from the Republic of Dagestan, because he competes in the heavyweight division. That is, he competed until he managed to do what no one before him had done. In a year and a half of competition in the UFC, Ruslan celebrated 3 times with victories until it was the turn of a new opponent, the United States Anti-Doping Agency. According to a USADA press statement, Magomedov tested positive for anabolic steroid metabolites in October 2018, marking his second anti-doping wrongdoing. On February 5th, he committed a 3rd violation, refusing to submit an out-of-competition test. Magomedov previously served a 2-year suspension from USADA due to a failed drug test on September 7, 2016. Because of this, the Russian fighter was banned from the UFC promotion forever, and when he returned to the Russian ACA organization, he lost 2 of his last 3 bouts and thus completely destroyed his career. It seems that the Dagestanis are not only dangerous for other fighters, but also for themselves. TJ Dillashaw destroyed his reputation when he moved up to flyweight to try to become a 2-time champion. At the time, Henry Cejudo was wearing the flyweight crown and TJ was trying to take it away from him. Training camp and grueling weight loss, all that to be knocked out only 30 seconds in the first round. But the failure to capture the second belt is not the biggest fall that Dillashaw has experienced, and he could not even imagine that soon he would be without the bantamweight championship as well. USADA later revealed that TJ's pre-fight urine sample contained recombinant human erythropoietin, or ARHUEPO, which is reportedly used to stimulate the body's production of red blood cells, thereby increasing oxygen transport and aerobic power. In short, you can train like a beast for a couple of hours with excellent stamina, endurance, and breathing easily. Although he drew the wrath of the MMA community upon himself, Dillashaw came out fair by voluntarily relinquishing the bantamweight title and accepting a 2-year suspension.
This is difficult to know. Every interview I do, I'm going to have to talk about the suspension and EPO and all that.
Nah, man, I mean, that's kind of why I was so upfront about it anyways. You know, it's kind of like doing your own therapy and getting it off your chest right away. Everything's already been said. You know, I didn't hide behind anything. I put it all out there, and I'm a very mentally tough guy, and it's not going to ever break me.
But even when he came back, he got past Corey Sandhagen in a controversial split decision, and later busted his title shot against bantamweight champ Aljamain Sterling in a fight that was painful to watch if you were a TJ fan. The Funkmaster, like most people, wasn't happy about opponents' previous wrongdoings.
If anyone's mentally weak as that guy, the guy needed steroids and EPO to catapult his career to even win as many fights as he did in the UFC, so his whole UFC tenure is tainted.
Of course, it's very shameful to ruin a career because of doping, but at least TJ didn't end up in jail for a long time. The same cannot be said about Lee Murray, who is pushing the boundaries of self-destruction. The Moroccan-English fighter had a promising record of 7 wins, 7 finishes, 1 loss, a draw, and no contest before joining the UFC. Judging by his life, where Murray participated in street fights, minor thefts, and assaults, it was evident that he was born to bring chaos.
Days after Lee Murray got stabbed, he's walking around the event with all the stitches still in him and everything still fresh. Lee Murray is one of the most legit gangsters of all time.
However, this is nothing, considering how he completely derailed his MMA career. The UFC saw off his talent when he reportedly knocked Tito Ortiz outside of the club, and given Ortiz and Dana White's relationship, it's no wonder Murray got a call from the promotion. Knocking out Tito on the street seems to be a good base for a quick entry into the UFC. Lee presented himself in the right light in his debut, where he finished Jorge Rivera with a submission in the first round to the delight of all who watched. However, his career did not see the final glory, and this remained the only fight in the promotion. The reason for this was complications with the US visa due to the ongoing criminal prosecution in the UK. Instead of a UFC career, he went to Cage Rage Promotion, where he fought Anderson Silva for the vacant middleweight title, but the Spider triumphed by unanimous decision. That would be it for Murray's MMA career, because he decided to break records, but not sports ones.
£53 million will be stolen, and Kent police are about to investigate what will become Britain's biggest ever robbery.
Murray's fame grew after he orchestrated the largest cash theft in British history, with £53 million stolen in an operation he oversaw in 2006. An organized attack saw a group of armed gang members flee a depot with cold hard cash. You can delve deeper by watching the Catching Lightning TV series that covers his troubled story.
The investigation is developing at a fast pace. I went to an operational briefing and what I saw was daily determination from everyone around the room. The team are committed to catching everyone and I'm confident that we will do just that.
When it was all said and done, Murray got trialed. And in addition to receiving a biographical documentary, he received 25 years in prison. However, no one's career has suffered because of USADA, like Nick Diaz's. The older Diaz brother had a great streak in Strikeforce, where he became the welterweight champion. After 3 title defenses, he returns to the UFC to try to reach their championship in the second run. But Nick Diaz came and did the most Diaz thing ever.
There was so much weed in his system when they tested him that he had to be high when he was fighting.
He failed the doping test twice due to the use of marijuana, which is far from a performance-enhancing steroid, but it was still an illegal substance at the time.
I know all the fighters, and they're all on steroids. All you motherfuckers are on steroids.
It happened for the first time in the UFC against Carlos Condit and 3 years later against Anderson Silva. We won't even talk about his days in the Pride. After the Silva fight, where Anderson also tested positive but for steroids, Nick was forced to serve a 5-year ban by the Nevada State Athletic Commission because of weed. With a protest, he managed to lower the ban to 18 months, but due to his inability to pay the $165,000 fine, he was considered ineligible to fight.
Do you see something very wrong with Anderson Silva getting a 1-year suspension and you getting a 5-year suspension?
That's ridiculous.
Although he managed to find an agreement with NSAC, Nick did not compete and extended his hiatus to almost 7 years. He returned only in 2021 against Robbie Lawler, where he lost the bout, not being even a shadow of the fighter he once was. Jonathan Koppenhaber is not the first fighter to raise his hand on his girl, but Jonathan did not stop at just one hit.
Physically, War Machine, he could be a problem for anybody.
But I'll tell you, mentally, he's definitely got some issues.
Before serving punishment out of the cage, War Machine came to the Ultimate Fighter 6 finale with a 5-1 record, where he showed his prosperity. He earned Fight and Knockout of the Night and got the opportunity to perform for the UFC. Although he lost his debut by submission, Jonathan made it worse when he refused an offer for another fight. His irresponsible behavior was accompanied by contentious statements about the death of former UFC fighter Evan Tanner. This later led to his permanent removal from the UFC roster. It was the stupid mistake that ruined his UFC opportunity, but Jonathan went on to completely ruin his whole life. Instead of war, John stuck to kidnapping and beating civilians. Already known to the police, Koppenhaver decided to collect criminal charges instead of MMA victories. His career and his life ended after he savagely attacked his ex-girlfriend and her boyfriend, for which he was charged with 29 charges and received a life sentence with the possibility of parole after 36 years.
I have been punched and kicked, smothered and bitten. I have been raped and tortured. I don't know if my life will feel complete in 12 years. Or 20 years, or even 30 years, and neither do you. But I do know when I get out, when he gets out, he will kill me.
It's no excuse for Lee Murray, but at least he turned out to be a badass and legend in the eyes of the people, unlike Jonathan the Love Machine, who couldn't overcome his emotional instabilities.
Some careers end because the fighter destroyed them. Others end because the sport did. The last story in this video isn't about a criminal or a cheater. It's about a man who just wanted to fight and paid for it with everything he had.
From the young UFC prospect who was supposed to take the MMA world by storm, his ascent was abruptly halted and diverted in another direction. The once undefeated fighter suffered back-to-back losses and was eventually released from the promotion, but not before becoming known as the most damaged fighter in UFC history.
You don't always get what you want in this life. It's tough.
Darren Till was born on December 24, 1992 in Liverpool. As a child, he felt a tendency towards violent sports, so he decided to start training at the age of 12. And what is more violent than Muay Thai, which Darren fell in love with early on. While martial arts are a lifesaver for people and a great way to gain confidence and keep your body and mind healthy, the truth is that they are a great area to pick up an injury. No fighter is 100% healthy, even when he goes out to fight. But Darren Till is something else when it comes to injuries. While we don't claim absolute truth, this is simply our opinion. However, our research and analysis strongly suggests that Darren Till deserves the title of the most damaged fighter. As a school dropout, Till had no choice but to devote himself completely to the sport, and 3 years later, he switched to professional Muay Thai. The young professional achieved an enviable record of 44 wins and 33 knockouts, and even won the ISKA Junior Championship before he decided to take a new step in the world of martial arts.
And then when I got to about 17, I left my Muay Thai gym to sort of transition over to MMA. And I started training at Cowbomb full time, and I had a few amateur fights.
Darren always boasted about how hard he trains, not knowing it would backfire on him in the most important parts of his career. Later, he revealed that he participated in brutal Shark Tanks with his MMA team Cowbon, where he prematurely destroyed his body. However, Darren's propensity for sports did not save him from his mischievous nature and desire to fight with anyone, anywhere, at any time. Accordingly, in 2012, Darren was stabbed twice in the back in front of a nightclub in Liverpool. For those who know what kind of a character he is, you won't be surprised to hear that Darren tried to deal with not one, but a whole group of people. After going to the hospital, the doctor called him a lucky man because he found that he had escaped death by a millimeter, literally by a millimeter, because the knife was that far from his main artery. Well, would you look at that? We haven't even reached the UFC yet, and Darren Till has already managed to sustain serious physical injuries. Advised by his coach, Darren flew to Brazil to train and build his MMA career. The 21-year-old Till started competing professionally and completely destroyed the opposition, in the truest sense of the word. In 2 years, he achieved 13 victories in the middleweight and welterweight divisions. Only 2 opponents were lucky enough to stand in front of Darren until the end of the fight. But it didn't do them any good because they were still defeated by the judge's decision. The other 11 were knocked out and submitted by the Liverpoolian. Yes, you heard that right. Darren was able to make opponents tap. Well, at least those outside of the UFC.
Speaking of UFC, the promotion came to Brazil in May 2015, and there was Darren ready to make his debut on 9 days' notice. In the second round, he finished Wendell de Oliveira with ground and pound elbows to present himself in the best light. From that moment, the incredible and rapid rise of Darren Till begins.
I just care about legacy and greatness. That's what I'm in this for. I'm not in this to make money, be a champion and leave. I'm in this for people to say at the end of it, you were the greatest. That's my only mentality. Fuck money and fuck everything else.
Well, it was an ascent that promised a lot, but ended disastrously. But not before Darren would bask in the triumph and glory he gained with each subsequent fight. In October 2015, 2 undefeated UFC fighters clashed. With 14 perfect victories, Nicholas Dalby took Till to a decision after 3 brutal rounds in a fight that was... wow! The judge's decision ended in a majority draw, and this was the first time Darren had left without a win. He did get something else though, and it wasn't just a fight of the night bonus. It was an injury. He went into the 3rd round with a dislocated shoulder, where he was brutalized by Dalby. Till says he threw an overhand and felt his shoulder pop. However, this wasn't the first time it had happened to him, but he didn't want to go for surgery before. But after this fight, he had to, and this injury cost him a year and 9 months sitting on the bench rehabilitating his shoulder.
Surgery went well. Yeah, perfect. I'm back at Carbon. I've been back since Christmas. My fitness is getting back. My weight's dropping. Training is really hard.
Hungry for a fight after a long break, the Gorilla returned in late May 2017. Miraculously, he didn't pick up any injuries during the fight or training camp, but he did fail to make weight. This is one of the main problems that has plagued Darren, right after his frequent injuries, of course, which is why the fight against Jason Ayari was happening at catchweight. Regardless, the Englishman stopped Ayari's 7-fight winning streak. The continuation of the year also went in favor of the Gorilla. In September, he defeated Bojan Velichkovic, taking him to distance, and then in October, he knocked out Donald Cerrone in the 1st round, winning the bonus for amazing performance. He went on stringing victories, but also reported some knee problems before the Cowboy fight. However, Till proved to be a fighter who won't back down even with an injury. Brave, but dumb decisions. Darren, who used to fight only in Brazilian cities, tours the world with the UFC promotion. Sweden, Ireland, Netherlands, Poland. He became well known everywhere, and his attractive personality increased the number of the Gorilla fanbase. However, he experienced his last triumph and peak in the UFC in May 2018, when he defeated one of the best UFC strikers, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, by a judge's decision. This was an important win for Darren because the event was in front of his home crowd in Liverpool. But this is where it gets ugly for him in every possible way. With his popularity and confidence on the rise, the UFC rushed to put him in the title picture. Because he was an up-and-coming star, and especially because Dana White did not hide his dissatisfaction with the then welterweight champion Tyron Woodley, Till needed a few more fights to sharpen up, but he was thrown into the fire prematurely. Their fight was scheduled for September, and the crown was on the line. While preparing for the fight of his life, Darren reported back problems, but that didn't stop him from showing up on fight night. Catastrophic knee problems are yet to be discovered later. It is not uncommon for fighters with significant knee problems to develop compensatory issues elsewhere in their bodies, including the back. That means Darren's injured back was the result of his destroyed knees. However, that night, he found out that this injury was not the worst thing that would happen to him. With an aggressive start, Tyron showed he wanted none of Till's striking exchanges. He was determined to expose him with his wrestling abilities, and in the 2nd round, he succeeded. He knocked him down with a devastating right hand, brutalized him with ground and pound, and then Bravo choked him to keep the title. It was the young prospect's first career defeat that seemed to open the door to many more health problems. Darren went down without a shot being fired. He literally didn't hit Woodley once. The UFC tried with all its might to correct the mistake and return Till to the winning column. They found him a new opponent for March 2019, which should have been an easy fight for him. The 2 fighters were brought to London, again in front of Darren's audience, and everything was prepared for his successful return. It was Jorge Masvidal, on a 2-fight losing streak, considered a washed-out fighter. Oh, how wrong they were. Jorge brought a huge upset in Darren's backyard, knocking him out cold. Judging by the future of the two careers, it seems that the entire stardom power has passed from the gorilla to Gamebred, who has become a major UFC player. It is important to note a few details before the knockout. It's like Masvidal knew that Darren had problems with his knees because he entered the cage with bad intentions. First, he opened the fight with a brutal oblique kick, and several times he served violent low and oblique kicks aiming for Till's knees. After the first knockout loss in his career, Till's confidence hit rock bottom. His problems with making weight brought him to middleweight in November 2019 against the durable Kelvin Gastelum, whom he defeated by a somewhat questionable split decision. Once overconfident in his abilities, Darren revealed that he was terrified about stepping into the cage at UFC 244. He says that minutes before he was called out, he wanted to fake an injury. But the question was it really a fake injury?
I was sparring, it was probably my best day of sparring, I was just on fire and I just got a bit overwhelmed. And as I threw a leg kick, one of my sparring partners, Chris, stepped in. So my knee sort of stopped on his leg, my leg wrapped around it and so my knee just gave out. It's the same knee that I'd done before, Cowboy, it's just problems. But, you know, listen, I'm not pulling out a no fight for nothing, I'm just not.
Darren Till just didn't want to go out there, but he did. His middleweight campaign continues in 2020, but so does his injury proneness. For someone with knee problems like Darren, Robert Whittaker was a terrible opponent. Rob put the Englishman back in the losing column with a unanimous decision victory, completely destroying his MCL in the process. Unbothered by the loss, Darren couldn't wait to return to the cage already in December 2020 against Jack Hermansson, but a month before the event, he had to withdraw due to an injury. Till, who never backed down after all the injuries, was now forced to do so. But unfortunately for him, that won't be the only pullout. He put on a few extra pounds on the break he took after the Whittaker fight, which resulted in his knee being deteriorated. During his career, he did everything to avoid ending up on the surgical table, but it was waiting for him sooner or later. He just couldn't find peace with it.
Do you need surgery?
Oh no. I mean, the doctor that seen me after Whittaker, the fight with Whittaker, he was like astonished. He was like, wow, how did you carry on fighting after that? And I was like, you know, it's not just me as an individual. Fighters are just that way inclined. He was like, no, you haven't got any MCL left. He was like, incredible, really. And then, you know, I probably do need surgery in the future, Ariel, but, you know, I didn't give myself enough time between fights to fight Jack after the Whittaker fight. And
there's no doubt he was burning with desire to fight, but his body decided otherwise. He got a new date and a new opponent. April 10th, 2021, against Marvin Vettori. In the final days of fight camp, Till suffered a broken collarbone and was out of the fight again. After this, Darren revealed that he often hung out with the doctor and received injections because he was going through severe pain due to various injuries that had followed him for years. He finally made a comeback in early September 2021 against Derek Brunson, but was unable to come out with a victory, suffering his second straight loss. Derek finished him in the third round via rear naked choke. His takedown defense was made worse by all the issues he had with torn ACLs and MCLs in his knees. It wasn't that Till was that bad, but he wasn't even a shadow of the fighter he was on his rise. Unlike the last one, this defeat hurt him, but he would never blame his injuries for it. But he did reveal that he sustained a torn ACL in his fight camp for that fight. The fight against Jack Hermansson is again scheduled for the end of July 2022 in London. Unfortunately, the fight was not realized this time either because of Till's knee issues. All the years of rigorous training, avoiding surgeries, and weak recovery came crashing down on Darren, who just wanted to enter the cage healthy. All this began to affect his mind in a very negative way.
Just right now is not my time, and I just need to sit back and understand that. You know, I'm not a crying man or anything, but it fucking just frustrates me so much.
He made his last UFC walk in December 2022 against future middleweight champion Dricus du Plessis. If you think he didn't get injured in training while preparing for a fight, you're sorely mistaken. In October, he shared a photo with an injured eye due to an eye poke while wrestling, which Darren says he felt in the back of his brain. Fortunately for him, he didn't cancel the fight, but unfortunately, he should have. He was submitted again after DDP took him down with ease. UFC commentator John Anik revealed that Till claimed to have suffered a suspected knee injury during the fight, and it seems to be the same injury that has plagued him in recent years. Till said he was unable to prepare properly due to another knee injury, which he tried to push through. With 3 last losses, Darren didn't want to leave MMA,
but he had to leave the UFC.
You don't always get what you want in this life. It's tough. I just want to say to everyone there, whether you love me or hate me, I'm sorry. I tried to come in and put a show on. I'm not retiring. I want to fight.
Out of 12 UFC fights and 2 canceled bouts, Darren Till sustained serious injuries in 7. He spent 3 hours in the octagon and over 20,000 hours in hospitals or rehabilitation. Despite these setbacks, his career was going well for a time, which makes his story even more impressive.
Let me just put it to you this way. Darren Till's not the only guy that's ever come to us and said, he just can't compete here anymore. No, he did ask for his release, and we did release him. He's a guy that we've had a great relationship with. We really like him, and obviously we wish him the best, and if he gets to a level where he thinks he's ready to come back to the UFC, yeah, we would probably do it.
A year and a half after his release from the promotion, Darren is on the hunt again, but in a different environment. The Gorilla will make his boxing debut against Tommy Fury on January 18th, 2025 in England. This will be his first step in returning to the fighting business, and hopefully, injuries will not stop him from doing so.
Every sport has a dark side. The UFC just happens to have 30 years of it, and we've only covered a fraction. The fights will go on. The belts will change hands. And the next name on a list like this one is probably already walking into a gym somewhere, not knowing how their story ends.